All right, welcome in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is 7 a.m. Wednesday, August 13th. Glad you're with us. The Greg McElroy speaking tour continues today in Atlanta. G-Mac, who are you speaking to today?
Today, speaking with a good group here in Atlanta, Morgan Stanley, a little college football preview at 11 o'clock Eastern time. So should be a good time, but we got 3 hours to fill it up here before we get on to some business after the show.
A lot of speaking tours happening for McElroy here in this off season. So kind of making the rounds before the season begins when it becomes very difficult to get anything like that done. But a lot of college football that we want to get to today. We mentioned a lot about Ty Simpson being announced as the starting quarterback yesterday, but the AP poll had been released. And even though we had Ralph Russo on to discuss it, we didn't spend too much time just kind of talking about where the teams were and who we liked in certain spots and maybe what we didn't like in certain spots. Let's go back through just a little bit of where the AP poll is, what we like, what we don't like, maybe what we think is accurate, because there is relevance for this AP poll. People can say that they're meaningless, and I understand that part, but there's relevance historically with what it is, what it's been, and just different people's opinions on teams. The first thing that sticks out, if you look at the parentheses beside the first 7 teams, there will be numbers next to those teams' names. That means they received a first-place vote, or at least 6 of the first 7 teams. That's the most since 2003, I believe. And that doesn't happen often. Does that kind of give you an indicator, following up what we've thought for a while this offseason, that this thing might be a lot more wide open than a lot of people are discussing?
It's absolutely wide open. And frankly, the teams that aren't getting enough love, like the ones you and I have discussed for how many months now, Penn State and Clemson, I mean, they're getting a whole lot less love than Texas is getting. And they frankly have a lot fewer questions than Texas. Not like Texas has a ridiculous amount of questions, but at least we know what we're getting with Cade Klubnik and Drew Aller. I'm super bullish on Arch, but I've never seen him be the down-in, down-out starter against top-tier competition. I look at a team like Ohio State. I mean, right now, Ohio State's quarterback battle is very much up in the air, and it's not a guarantee that it's the 5-star Julian Sayin. Lincoln Kienholz is supposedly hanging in there and might actually have a little bit more of a hold on the job than most people originally thought going into the competition. So, like, there are places that we're now inserting into the national championship picture with the first place vote that don't even know who their starting quarterback's going to be. That to me is a tough spot, especially when compared against guys that have started for 3 years at both Clemson and Penn State.
I think it's super fair. And it feels like we mentioned this a couple months ago before SEC Media Days that certain teams' potential flaws or concerns were just not being discussed, plain and simple. And other teams were being highlighted to the point that it was the only thing that you could really feel like people were, I guess, judging them by, grading them by. But when you go through this AP poll, Texas number 1. I will say this, and you had your top 25 that you released on your podcast this past week. You did not have Texas number 1. I would not have Texas number 1. Penn State did come in at 2, Ohio State 3, Clemson 4, Georgia 1. You spent a little time yesterday saying the first things that stuck out, Ohio State shouldn't be at 3, Texas shouldn't be at 1. I think you and I, maybe in different order, would probably both have Penn State and Clemson number 1. What was your order of the top 5 when you released yours late last week?
I did Clemson 1, Penn State 2. I think Clemson, I trust them a little more. You know what I mean? Like I see them, I've seen them punch up in the last 8 or 9 years. I haven't always seen Penn State punch up. And I also think the gauntlet, quote unquote, that Clemson will have to run to a potential ACC title is not nearly as challenging as the gauntlet that Penn State might have to run. Penn State still has to play Oregon. They still have to play Ohio State. And based on the past, it's not likely they win either one of those 2 games. Now, I think this year's roster is absolutely more capable of being able to go toe-to-toe with those 2 teams. I think their roster is better than Ohio State's and Penn State's based on known commodity, or Ohio State's and Oregon's based on known commodities. But they still got to go do it, and that has not always been a game that they've played their very best football in. So I think Clemson right now is actually the safer pick to be in the mix at season's end than Penn State, whose roster top to bottom might actually be a bit stronger.
So when we look at these teams towards the top, and it's 2016 actually since this many teams have received first place votes in the preseason poll. There were 7 that year, 6 teams this year. When we look at those, are those the only teams that can win a national championship? Those teams that received the vote would be Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Oregon. So if you stop there, you would not include Notre Dame, you would not include Alabama, you would not include LSU. Would you include those 3 in teams? I'm not saying you're picking them, but that could win a national championship.
Yes, I think they absolutely could, for sure. Would not, based on what we know in the preseason, would not have them that high. But we're talking now in a world where you need to be at your best 4 months from now. You know what I mean? The teams that have known players, continuity, cohesiveness from the year before, they might have a little bit of an advantage in week 1, 2, 3, 4. But having an advantage week 1, 2, 3, 4 does nothing for you when talking about winning a national championship. So I think the team that might have the highest ceiling at season's end is the one I might lead to. And I'll give you an example for a team like Oregon. Oregon's going to be outrageously young. Like really, really young. And I think as a result, they're probably going to have a few inconsistencies. But by the time we get to January, assuming they're still alive, could they be playing their best football at that point? I think it's absolutely probable. So while if you tell me right now, hey, where would you rank Oregon? I'd probably have them 7, 8 in that vicinity. But come January, with the youth that's going to be on that roster and the quality reps they're going to get, they could be a very different looking team.
Yeah, I would be with you on that one. What's interesting about that is I saw Joel Klatt yesterday. There was a graphic with the 9 teams that he says can win a national championship, and he would draw the line there. And that would be Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, Clemson, Oregon, LSU, Alabama, Notre Dame. So essentially the top 9 of the AP poll because it goes Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame, Oregon, Alabama, LSU. So that means that he draws the line there. I just want to go through a couple of these other teams because we're saying can, Greg. We're not saying will.
Correct.
We're not saying probably, not saying favorite to. We're just saying can win a national championship. You just give me yes or no, and we'll go down the list here. John, you could chime in on these also if you'd like. Miami.
Yes, they can.
I'd be with you. I would say can win a national championship.
Yeah, I believe so.
Arizona State.
I'm going to say can't, but I don't want to.
Okay. I think they can.
Team-wise, yes. In the way the playoffs structured, no.
Okay. Illinois.
They have to stay healthy.
Sure.
And I just don't know if in 16 games that a lot of these teams are going to have to play, if they have the depth.
Okay, take what you just said and get ready to say it again about 5 more times. Okay. Illinois.
No.
No.
John? I actually think they can. I like them a lot this year.
Oh, boy.
Michigan.
Here we go. No. Too much new on defense.
Correct.
I would say no as well. I don't think they can do it this year. SMU.
No.
I don't think so either.
Same.
Florida.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so too. Here's a fun one. Oklahoma. Can they is the question, not will they. Can they?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
I think it's absolutely. Texas A&M.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
I think they can. My asterisk there would be it's going to need much improved quarterback play than what we've seen, and that would actually probably be my number one reason why I would say that I don't think that they could, but I'm going to lean can. Ole Miss.
Too much new on defense.
Yeah, I don't think so. Not this year.
I just don't think good enough at either line of scrimmage on either side of the ball. So I'm going to say no, they cannot. And here I think is maybe I'll just throw a couple more out. You say because I think all these would be cannot. Kansas State, Indiana, Texas Tech, Tennessee, Boise.
Texas Tech is like the one wild card because they're so new and they've reinforced their talent, but I would still lean no.
Okay. John, any of those that you would say can?
One more time, give me them.
Kansas State, Indiana, Texas Tech, Tennessee.
No.
Those would all be can't for me. Now, here's the two fun ones I think are the most fun to discuss. Because I think the first one I'm going to throw at you guys, most people are going to say can't right away. And that is South Carolina. Greg, can South Carolina win a national championship?
They can, but it is entirely dependent on the defense not dropping off whatsoever.
It's
and
right.
Lenore is taking a massive step.
Yeah, it's more thin than it is with some of the other teams that we said can. But it's the correct answer. They absolutely can. That's a team that you look at and say, all they got to do is get in. And then a guy on defense takes over a game, and then the guy on offense takes over a game, and then a game goes their way, and then another one takes over a game, and you win a national championship. It could happen. Now I'm with you. Defense, some new faces need to step up. Some receivers, some new faces need to step up. Your comment about health would glaringly apply to that football team, similar to a lot of others. John, South Carolina?
Oh, yeah, I definitely think they can.
All right, and here's another one, Greg. Remember, can they? Not will they, not predicting them to, can they? Can Iowa State win a national championship?
No.
I think they can.
They don't have the horsepower.
Did they last year?
Yes, their receivers last year were the real
That's
deal.
what I was wondering. If they had Noel and Higgins coming back, would your answer be different?
I think it would be.
I think that's where I am.
I hate putting that much stock into wide receivers, but they have a very narrow margin. In the event in which the game becomes a bit of a track meet, a la the Big 12 championship last year, I just don't think they can keep up.
Yeah.
Like, you got to have difference makers at wide receiver. We've learned that for years. Receiver has become a premium position, and doesn't mean they don't have a guy that's solid. I'm sure they have several. But do they have that guy that can take over the game like we saw guys do in the playoff last year? I just have a hard time envisioning that with them. And I hate saying that because I love the program so much. They're one of my favorites. But I just don't see it.
Yeah, I would go with Iowa State exactly where you went with Arizona State, in that I want to say yes, but I don't think I can. I think Rocco Becht is vastly underrated with how we talk about some other quarterbacks. And you and I have kind of laughed at some of the conversation that certain QBs are getting going into the season, and then other people won't say a word about this young man for an entire offseason. And he's going to be a great college quarterback this year. I think he's got a good cast. I think if he had the cast coming back from last year, specifically at receiver, I would probably easily say yes, they could. And lost a little bit on defense too. That's going to be tough to replace. But I just thought it was interesting drawing the line at 9 when we're making all these discussion points about how it's wide open and how we don't have this glaring team that, like, well, whatever you do, you got to deal with them. There's like 5 of those. Because normally we would sit back and say, even going into last year, it was like, you're going to have to deal with Ohio State probably at some point. Can you deal with that? Who is that team this year? Like, you're going to see so-and-so. I think there's 5 or 6 of those. It's Clemson, Penn State, Texas, Georgia, Notre Dame, Bama, Oregon, LSU. It's like those are all the teams that, all right, well, you're probably going to see 1, 2 of those, but we don't know which ones it's going to be and how much better they're going to be than we think. So it could all be pointing to a really fun college football season that looks like one.
Let me ask you a question, though. How much of your hesitation, as you just described Iowa State, as you described Arizona State, as we went through Kansas State, Texas Tech, you didn't reference Utah and add them to the fold.
They should be there, absolutely.
Absolutely put them in because of how good their offensive line is, and I think they've finally solved their quarterback problem from the last couple of years. So just add them to the fold. This is kind of this is not really about Utah. It's really more about the Big 12 as a whole. How hard is it to right now definitively back a Big 12 team, knowing what's likely going to be a very, very challenging league to win because of how close those teams are across the board?
Super challenging league to win. I mean, I think you're going to have some close games. I mean, you think about the fact that Fafita is back at Arizona. We just mentioned
don't sleep on them.
Arizona State being a legitimate team that can go push for a national championship. The main reason that I wouldn't have just thrown them out is with Kane Udoh coming in at running back, because people would say, well, no Scattaboo. Kane Udoh can get it. You got Sam Levitt at quarterback. We've mentioned Baylor 100 times on this show in the last couple months. They're going to be a really good football team. BYU has quarterback questions, but they're going to be a good football team. And Colorado brought in some decent replacements for what they lost. It won't be the same, but I don't think they fall off the face of the earth. You know, Houston is set up and primed to have a pretty good season, at least much better than maybe what they were a year ago if Connor Wigman can get things righted. We just talked about Iowa State. Kansas ain't gone. I mean, Jalen Daniels has made plays, right? He's been a really good college football player before, and somebody who I think can be dynamic in that league. I've told people about Josh Hoover here on this show at TCU, quarterback that did not throw for 4,000, but did throw for over 3,000 yards last year. And you just brought
39, like 39.62 for those of y'all. I don't even know what it is off the top of my head, but like everyone, I know Cole likes to get hung up on the numbers, but we round at quarterback, and if you're close enough to 4,000, you're pretty much a 4,000-yard passer.
Well, and Utah's a team that I should probably be ashamed of myself for not bringing up, because
I love Utah.
With Devin Dampier was overly dynamic last year. You're going to be really good at running back, even though a lot of those faces are new that you're bringing in. I think that's probably a position that you can squeeze in a little bit faster and get on the same page with a little more quickly than you can some others. And that offensive line should be great. I mean, should be great. And you ain't got three wide receivers that could make you more dynamic on the outside. Tobias Merriweather has the ability to be sort of your bigger catch radius guy on the outside down the field. Has been at, I think, Notre Dame and USC. You go get Larry Simmons, who I know the folks in Mississippi thought he was going to be a big-time player there. Ryan Davis, we saw him a little bit at UAB in New Mexico as well. Understands Devin Dampier in that offense. So the offense, like you said, there have been bits and pieces where we've said, oh, this is going to be it, or this is going to be the guy. This could be the year that offense really takes a massive step as far as being a little bit more scary and a little bit more dynamic. And you don't think they're sitting there talking about sending Witt out with the championship, with everything he's done and everything he's been? I can promise you that that's being discussed in certain portions of that facility.
Well, another thing, too, like those that say, oh, well, they're never going to be innovative offensively, that's just not who Coach Whittingham is. Well, not saying it's an apples to apples comparison, but it's an apples to, plums comparison. Pretty close, but not quite the same. Look what Iowa did last year. I mean, no one ever in a million years thought that Iowa would ever field an offense that had any ounce of a heartbeat. It was all ball control, field position, hidden yardage, defense, churn and burn. And they kind of reinvented themselves offensively last year under new offensive coordinator Tim Lester. I'm not saying that Utah's all of a sudden going to turn into the fun and gun. I don't think that's necessarily where they're going to be. But I'm telling you, this Dampier kid is super dynamic. And they have the best offensive line by far in the Big 12. I think you can make a case that it's the best offensive line in the country. I don't know if they'd be number one, but they're in that conversation.
I think I'd have them as the favorite going in. I would have a small group of like 3-4, and they would be in that mix. Yeah.
Okay, so they're up there, and don't think it's because it's going against Big 12 talent. Like, they have legitimate first-round guys on their offensive line, and they're all back, and they're all angry, rightfully. So I think just looking at everything, I think Utah has a chance to maybe kind of sneak into the upper echelon, and while their defense as a result might take a bit of a step back, like Iowa's did last year, if they can score and the defense is 85% of what it once was, that's going to be a problem child. So I don't know if I'm going as far as say they can win the national championship, because frankly, in the Big 12, I just have a hard time really picking a horse, because I don't even know for sure if that horse is going to get to 8 wins because of how tightly knit the entire place is. So, like, it's a little see it to believe it mode in the Big 12 for me, but I think there's some real contenders in Arizona State, in Utah, and I really like Texas Tech as well. Those are kind of the 3 to beat for me going into the league.
Yeah, Texas Tech is just so hard to put a finger on right now. I mean, it's cool to talk about. It's fun to look at. We just have no idea how it's actually going to operate and work. And I've said this on this show. 1,000 times, I'll say it again. It doesn't just always work. Everybody thinks you go get talent or you go get experience and all of a sudden it just works. It doesn't. It's been proven time and time again at many different places that just because it looks good on the surface. I had somebody close to the Auburn program text me yesterday. And this goes right in line, and Greg and I have talked about this time and time again. And it was, man, I guess some of the stuff that you've been saying about Mason Murphy versus Xavier Chaplin feels like it's accurate. What do you mean? Mason Murphy just a much better football player. Who was ranked higher in the portal rankings? Xavier Chaplin. Why? 6'7", 348. I'm just saying, like, he's got the NFL frame, so he's got to be a better player, right? He's not a better player. Mason Murphy's a better football player. That's it. He's a better football player. And so everybody covers Auburn peed their pants about Xavier Chaplin the whole offseason. But we actually watched Mason Murphy play, and we told you he's a better football player. Portal rankings didn't say that. Stars didn't say that. Height, size, weight, frame didn't say that. But we did. All right, when we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Teams possibly that could win a national championship. Any we're forgetting? Or are we crazy for throwing that many out? 800-239-9569. Back with more next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Yankees took out the Twins yesterday, 9-1, 64-56 on the season. Twins, 56-63. Problem was Toronto took out the Cubs, who are now Blue Jays 70-50. Cubs 67-51. Braves lost to the Mets 13-5. Dodgers go down to the Angels. Doesn't happen often. G-Mac 7-6 last night. Dodgers 68-52.
We haven't beaten the Angels all year, so we're used to it by now. Just a little walk-off in the 10th, no biggie.
Also interesting news last night, the Padres take out the Giants 5-1, which means they are also 68-52, which means there is now a top of the AL West, a tie, at the top of the AL West. Milwaukee over Pittsburgh 14-0 last night. Chris Yellett's 3 for 3, home run, 3 runs driven in. Best record in baseball? Anyone?
Brewers.
Yes.
Ooh.
Milwaukee 75-44. So actually pretty strong hold on best record in baseball right now for the Brewers. All right, back to our teams that can win a national championship. We'll do that in just a moment. Before we do it, Greg, tell our listeners about Shannara Flooring.
Well, Shannara Flooring has done such a great job of building their entire company on foundation of trust and integrity. Really appreciate the experience that you get when you go with Fu and his guys at Shannara Flooring. And right now they have 40,000 square feet of Core-Tech flooring by Shaw in stock. This durable, dependable flooring that will upgrade the experience that you have in your home or in your office. So go and check it out today. And right now, that Core-Tech flooring by Shaw, it's $10 off per box. So you can really stack some savings. 12 months financing is also available as well. So make sure you go and take a peek at it now and take advantage of those savings by going to fuandyou.com. That's fuandyou.com. Make sure you use Shannara Flooring for your next flooring adventure.
All right, I want to go back to these teams that we said can. Once again, emphasis on can, not saying will, not saying favorite to, but just stars align can win a national championship. Would it almost be fair to throw Michigan in there based on everything other than quarterback? Is that the one thing that's holding us back from that?
Well, it's a reasonable thing to be held back on.
Well, especially if
We've
it's
seen
a freshman. I mean, that's
true freshman quarterbacks win national championships in the last 40 years. One with Oklahoma in 1985 and Jamel Holloway. The other with Trevor Lawrence in 2018. And with all due respect to Michigan's personnel at wide receiver, unless they're starting to incorporate the triple option.
Definitely not what Nebraska was in 85 at wideout.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's going to look exactly like it did with the wishbone in 85 with Jamel. And I don't think the receivers or the personnel around the quarterback at Michigan is anywhere near what Clemson had in 2018. So I don't see it right now. Perhaps.
No,
different offense.
O-line definitely better, but you're right. The skill is not even it's not in the same county as what Clemson had for that run. All right, so I want to go through some of the teams that may be sort of fringe for some folks, similar to us. You give me the one thing that has to happen, and this is just first thing that comes to your mind. We don't have to stay in the same category like health or individual player schedule, whatever it is. Just first thing that comes to your mind of if that team's going to win a national title, blank has to happen. Oregon.
The youth needs to play above and beyond. They got to stay healthy at wide receiver. They already lost Evan Stewart for what should be most of the regular season, if not all.
Five-star, former five. Are you former or always five-star? I think based
Always,
on portal rankings, you're always five-star. You're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Current five-star Jurion Dickey is also suspended for an unspecified period of time. Dan Lanning announced that yesterday. So wide receiver depth hurting even more for Oregon at the moment. Yes.
And they do have the freshman Jacorian Moore. And we saw last year what Ryan Williams can do, what Jeremiah Smith can do. He was the number 1 ranked receiver in the entire class. So I think that's a position where you can have a huge impact early in your career, but receiver depth's a problem. I think the offensive line, you're better equipped to speak to that. I think they'll be okay there. But I do think there are a couple pieces along the defensive line I have some concerns about. They lost a lot of snaps, college snaps off that defensive line. And while they might be talented, I think they are going to be a little young, and there could be some growing pains.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Alabama. I would go also Dante Moore, but yeah, quarterback I think is probably one of the main things with Oregon that I look at and say, I just don't know. Crimson Tide.
Also, with Oregon's quarterback, though, with all due respect to Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel beforehand, I'm not discrediting at all what they did. It's a very quarterback-friendly offense.
But they brought a boatload of experience to that. So
1,000%, and they made it look easy. So maybe it's harder than it looks. But just looking at the offense itself, Will Stein does a really good job of making that guy comfortable. He will not allow Dante Moore to bite off more than he can chew.
Yeah.
I also love the addition of Mekhi Hughes at running back. So they're going to take some of the pressure off with the traditional run game. They're going to be really good running the football.
Well, and I've talked about Isaiah World at tackle. I think he actually may be better than what they had a year ago, and they had 2 tackles drafted last year. I think they may have upgraded at 1 tackle spot. So, because I think the tackles they had last year were slightly flawed, but it did show up at times. They could have upgraded at one of those spots, and that would be huge for them. All right, Alabama. Blank has to happen if the Crimson Tide's going to win a national championship. One thing.
Got to stay healthy on defense. I think that's the key.
Specifically down the middle?
Yeah, I think, well, I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic with what I saw from the defensive tackles last week. You know, not to say that it's like, I mean,
there's not
Quinn
7
Williams
of them.
and no, exactly. Like compared to the 2016 version of Bama, they're not as deep. But I do think they have a chance to be pretty disruptive up front, which is something that I wasn't sure about. But I think at linebacker, Deontay Lawson's got to be out there, and he's got to be playing well. I think at other spots at linebacker, you know, Jefferson's got to play well. Greenhill's got to play well. Like, I think they have to be good up the middle of the defense. Sound against the run. I think those are the tickets. If they can stay healthy in the front 7 defensively, I really like their chances of having one heck of a defense across the board. I still think, worst case, they're a top 20 unit. But this group could, I think, be a top 5 unit if they stay healthy throughout the course of the season.
Damian, one thing has to happen for Alabama to win a national title. What would it be?
I say they found their offensive identity. Can they actually put teams away in the run game when they have leads and they can sit on them? I think if they can continue almost in that joyless murder ball situation.
Bring that back a little bit?
Yeah, bring it back a little bit, and I think that's a recipe for a national championship.
John, where would you go with Alabama? One thing to win a national championship has to happen.
Consistency. They showed last year that
it's actually a really good one. Yeah.
They could knock off the best teams out there, but and hate to bring up Vanderbilt, but yes, they were caught off guard. But there were multiple games where they couldn't.
Better than bringing up statues because that's boring. But you weren't here for that yesterday.
Sorry. Yeah, well, nothing like says boring like a good solid statue. But no, Alabama had been the model of consistency for the most part under Nick Saban, and in just a few months they got away from it. Yeah. Okay, fine. So you got a substitute teacher and someone else. Okay, fine, I get that. But now it's time to get back down to business. Can you actually do that? And if so, you can be hoisting the trophy at the end of the year.
Okay. I'm just going to go Ty Simpson, and he's got to be good, not great. He doesn't have to be elite. He doesn't have to be Johnny Manziel. But it also goes along with what John said. Just be good consistently. Understand situational football. Be aware of what the game is, where the game is, who's around you, what could potentially happen. If Ty Simpson is that, then I think Alabama can win a national championship. I think that's what it'll take because I think the pieces around him, you could go from having an elite group of receivers. I think that running game will be a little bit stronger more consistently. I think you can offset him in different ways in different times. But I'm also with Greg on that defense. I think that's big. It's I think up the middle, I don't think there's a ton of D tackles. And we know there's not a lot of inside linebackers. That part's got to stay healthy. And you've talked about it a lot, Greg. There are certain parts of the secondary that once they were dinged up last year, it wasn't the same. It was different. So the health of that part also going to be critical as well.
And one thing that I don't think can be acknowledged enough were the challenges they had last year with guys essentially being forced to play at less than 100% because of that lack of depth. Like, if you really look at, I mean, Keon Sabb played the entire Tennessee game with a broken foot.
Yeah.
And had pain in the 3 or 4 games leading up to that because he had, some issues with that foot. And it finally gave in Tennessee, and man, that kid will forever be one of my favorites because of how tough he was in playing through that injury. But Damani Jackson had a hip pointer after South Carolina, was never at 100%, could barely practice. I mean, was so sore on Sundays, he could barely do anything Monday, Tuesday, and by the time he got back to it, Wednesday, Thursday, and yet, remember, this is year 1 of a new defense. He's year 1 at Bama to begin with. So last year, what Kane Womack did was truly amazing because not only did they have a really, really good defense, but most of the guys that were out there contributing on Saturdays couldn't even practice in the week leading up because of how banged up they were. So I think making sure you have that practice time and making sure you're at as close to 100% as you can be, no one's going to be 100% throughout the season, is of vital importance. So
makes sense.
I just think it's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, one more before we go to break, LSU, and we'll continue this practice on the other side. What's the one thing, Greg, that has to happen for LSU to win a national championship?
Offensive line cannot be a liability.
Yep. I'll counter that because that would probably be my go-to, but I'll switch my answer up just for you. The decision-making process to actually hand off the football. That has to be something that is ingrained in them somewhere deep down in that bag of tricks. Just like maybe you might have to, dig around in the bottom of it, trying to feel your way through it, but there's got to be a called handoff in there somewhere. Just give it to a different player in the backfield. I don't care if you put a backup guard back there. Just hand the ball off on occasion. At some point in time, don't allow your edge rushers to just tee off on your guys. Even though you're also right about the offensive line. Anybody want to add anything different on LSU?
I was going to say defense.
There's a ton. I mean, Whitwick's got to stay healthy. Harold Perkins needs to be more than effective. Like, he's got to be a guy. The secondary's got to come together. But if it's the one thing for me,
run.
Greg's right. It's the offensive line not being a liability, and just when you go up 14 in the third quarter, give the ball to another player, not through the air. That'd be the one thing for me. If that happens, maybe LSU can win a national title. All right, we'll be back with more of one thing teams have to do to win a national championship in 2025. First, I'll tell you about Game Day Men's Health. There's one thing you can do right now to feel better. Let's go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Sign up for the free consultation. You'll go in, you get a free PSA test, you get a free testosterone test, find out where your baseline health is. And then the fine folks at Game Day Men's Health are going to say, these are the things that we can do to make you feel better. We can help you get more energy. We can help you sleep better. We can help you not feel on edge. We can help you lose weight. There's multiple programs for that. And you can save 10% on any of those programs by mentioning Mac and Cube when you walk in the front door of Game Day Men's Health. Holistic approach to health and wellness, minimal upfront costs from the programs that they offer. Book a free consultation now at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. More on teams winning national championships this year and how next on Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Talking teams that can. And I appreciate the Context Warriors coming out on Twitter this morning as I asked the question, how many teams can win a national championship in college football this season? A lot of people going with one. Well, one. Well, the way I see it, just one. I get it.
Actually,
Congrats
they're all wrong. 135 can win.
There you go.
If you want to go like that route, if you really wanted to be, so you should have said how many will win. That point's one.
Dogmatic said only one can win it.
No.
Actually, you're right, John.
No. 135 can.
You Context Warriors are wrong.
Yeah.
What was that, G-Mac?
What about champions of life?
Brick by brick.
I mean, they're still in one of those.
Even if they don't win the championship, they can be a champion at life. So
Especially
there's
if they
always
have a 5-star
champions.
heart.
Wow. You are on one today. You're going back to Statueville.
What?
The Statueville yesterday.
Boring radio? I would never.
You're in a hole about.
I would never go back to boring radio. I would never do that. Never think of doing such a thing. Why teams can win a national championship. One thing that needs to happen, Miami. One thing that has to happen for that team to win a national championship.
The receivers have to play mature beyond their years. The talent is not in question.
No.
With Miami's wide receivers. They have talent. They've recruited well at that position. But the receivers, and we'll find out week 1 because you know who's coming to town, and that's Notre Dame, and we know what they play defensively. Press man, come and get it. We're going to find out all we need to know about those wideouts week 1. If the receivers are legit and they can beat press coverage and they can create big plays, I think Miami has everything that you could possibly want to make a run. I think this is, of all the long shots to go win this thing, they might be my favorite. I mean, now they're a long shot. I don't even know what their odds are to go win the Natty, but they have an experienced quarterback that I think you're getting on sale as far as public perception. And everyone thinks that he was the problem last year. I strongly disagree with that. I think you have arguably the best offensive and defensive line in the entire ACC, which is a pretty dang good place to start. And you have revamped what you are defensively by bringing in Corey Heatherman. And Corey Heatherman is of the Minnesota tree where they don't do anything that they don't need to do. He lets his players play. And as a result, they're not going to be trying to blitz you to death and guess right like they did the last couple of years with Lance Guidry. And while playing against Lance Guidry is a pain because you got to be prepared for zero coverage, all-out blitz on every single snap, that's a pain, it's also unsound. And I think this group is going to be far more sound and to allow their talent to kind of come to the forefront, which could be kind of a dangerous proposition for a lot of the teams they face. So Miami, I think, is that team that right now you can get a long shot national title championship odds with. I'd roll the dice there.
All right. I think my question is actually my answer is actually going to include yours, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on where I go because I think you'll know exactly what I mean. Because this is going to sound super surface level and extremely common sense, but I believe with this team it's more applicable. What would you say if I just told you? God, it's almost embarrassing to say. They just need to be better in game. Like, just understand situational football. Like, and part of it is what you said. Be less risk adverse when you have things under control or things are in your corner. But just be better in game. Like you said, Greg, the talent is there. The coaching acumen is there. Now, you switch one side of the ball, but I just think it's, whether it's situational awareness, whether it's not making mistakes in big moments, they just need to be better in games.
That's not embarrassing. I thought you were going to say, like, they need to be better in special teams or something. That would have been embarrassing.
For this show, it would have been. Yes. Tomorrow, we rank the top 25 special team units in the country.
Just kickers and punters, not units.
We got to go snapper, too. We got to include them. McAnally Award, something that we're right on top of here on this show. But is it crazy for me to say that about Miami?
No, I think it's a little low-hanging fruit, but I understand it. You know what I mean? It's fair. I think Mario gets a bit of a bad rap, for quote game management or quote game mismanagement, I think
not
it's a
Mario's
little
fault
unfair.
that you fumbled the football. I mean, against Georgia
No,
Tech
it's
a couple
not.
of years ago. I mean, it's
not.
Now you take a knee maybe, but it's your job is to carry the football, specifically in short yardage situations. I don't put all that on him. And
No.
you had a risk taker at quarterback last year. He was really good at it. He was maybe the best in college football at it last year, but same time, I think that opens the door for other guys on the team when you allow things like that to happen to think they can play that way. And maybe that's part of the problem is you allow certain players to play certain ways because they have the ability to, but not everybody should think that they can do that and they can operate that way. I don't know the exact verbiage to use for it. I think you understand where I'm going with it, but I think it's more collective than just a Mario call. That's part of it, but that's not even where the majority of the emphasis was. I just think they need to have better understanding of where they are in certain moments in game. And they've got the talent to win a national championship. Some of that might just be maturity. Some of that might just be understanding. I don't know exactly what it is or how to put my finger on it, but that's where I would go with Miami as far as can they go win a national championship, or the one thing that would have to happen if they were going to go do that. All right, continuing this trend. We brought up Arizona State a little bit earlier. You said you wanted to, but you couldn't. Is it explosive capability somewhere? Is it players on defense? Is it lack of takeover guys? Like what would be the one thing that would allow you to flip your opinion or your pick on Arizona State to say they can go win a national championship?
The emergence of a receiver beyond Jordan Tyson would be helpful. We know what he is, right? He's a great player and can be super dynamic. And while his absence was not a major hindrance against Texas, maybe he would have been the difference. But having other guys that can step up there is huge. I'm not worried about running back. I think they're deeper at that position. I think rushing the passer was a problem last year. Being more effective with their pass rush would be huge. I think number one, though, is probably keep Sam Leavitt healthy. I mean, he's a bit of a risk taker. He's got some Manziel qualities. He reminds me, frankly, a lot of Zach Wilson when he was at BYU. Like, he's going to do some things that are amazing. But he's also a guy that, because of how much he tries to create, can at times put himself in harm's way. So him staying healthy is massive, but I also think, there's some other areas around him that would be huge.
Quickly, where would you go with Florida? Is it as easy as just saying DJ has to be in games? Yes. DJ availability? That easy? And then if that's the case, that paves the road for everything else to sort of work itself out. Secondary could be one you'd throw in there, but he's just plain and simple because, like we've said before, he elevates guys around him. He has to be in games at the end of the day.
I think him being healthy is massive. That's number one. We know that in games he finished last year, he was 6-0. That's been a long documented conversation. I think for Florida, the biggest thing, man, is they got to start fast, dude. And I'm not talking about weeks 1 and 2. I think they'll handle their business there. But week 3 on the road at LSU, I mean, this team did not round into form until the end of October. That's not good enough.
Yeah.
With if they're going to make a run. And last year they were young, relatively speaking. They did have a lot of starts back, but it was a relatively young team. They need to pick up where they left off at the end of last year. If they can do that and get off to a hot start and create some momentum, then that's when hope becomes reality. And reality, I think, with that group would go a long way in creating some positivity.
No, I think you're right. All right, we'll continue talking teams that can win a national championship, the reasons why, next, right here on Jox. Welcome back in, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 7:53 Wednesday, August 13th, right here on Jox 94.5. We mentioned a little bit earlier, Oregon five-star wide receiver Jurion Dickey suspended for an unspecified period of time. Fresno State has announced E.J. Warner will start at quarterback in their opener. He had 3,028 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 11 picks 2 years ago at Temple, 2,710 yards, 17 and 13 at Rice last year, so at his third program. He's obviously the son of Super Bowl quarterback, champion winning quarterback, Kurt Warner. Do you know who Fresno State's head coach is, Craig?
Matt Entz.
Yep. People made fun of that move a couple of years ago, remember? Like, you're leaving North Dakota State to go to USC to be like the associate linebackers coach? What? Well, now he's got a head job at Fresno. So I feel like that springboard has been pretty good for him. Made a pretty good decision there. And then there's some portal news, which is completely odd right now. UCLA has signed Tulsa offensive lineman Ty Marks. Baylor has signed SMU transfer defensive lineman Braylon Jackson. Are these guys playing? Like week one? They're going to play?
Hit the ground running.
Hey, welcome in, kid. We kick off in 13 days. Get your pads. By the way, we run a 3-4. Like, what? Hey, can you pull? Okay, good. Get in there, kid.
Hit that guy.
Hope your pass pro's ready. Here's your helmet. All right. I mean, God,
You don't have a
feels
decal yet, though. You hadn't earned it yet.
Earned it. Just stickers. It just feels like a late arrival for somebody who could potentially help your football team. I don't know. Maybe I'm old school here.
I don't think you're old school. I just think it's all knowing how important it is to create cohesiveness and continuity, how hard that is to create, to just do it in 14 days to me feels wild. But crazier things have happened, and in the modern era, these kids are more adaptable than they once were. So maybe it'll work, but it sounds like a depth play.
It's probably something that's going to play into is having capable bodies there if somebody were to go down. There are capable bodies at all three locations of your CBD store. If you need answers for weight loss, if you need answers for arthritis, anxiety, they've got them on the shelves at the largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer in the world. First company to have USDA-certified organic oil supplements. They've got that stamp seal on those products for you or your pet. Gut health, skincare. They can help you out with that at your CBD store. Taking the edge off in the evening, feeling better throughout the course of the day, better focused throughout the course of the day. Products to help you with all of that. Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cajun Cleaver, Trussville just off 459, your CBD store where good health hits home. Yes, they are still open, regardless of what you may have seen on the news about other places. Your CBD store is open at all three locations. When we come back, I have a question for Bill Connolly. He always gives us these percentage of production returning for all these college football teams. How does he factor in the transfers? Because they weren't productive at that place last year. So you just get that 2,000 yards receiving on your list of production? He's going to tell us how it works next, right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning on Jox. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. You can listen online, joxfm.com. App is in the App Store, iPhone, Android. You can download it for free. Bill Connolly going to join us in just a moment, but you can join all of us at the Jox Kickoff Party. Damian, tell our listeners how.
Yeah, celebrate the kickoff to college football with us at the Bill Smith Buick GMC Jox Kickoff Party at Regents Field on Thursday, August 21st. And the only way to go is by winning tickets. This week is the last week of qualifying. To enter to win a pair of tickets today for you and a guest, text the keyword football and your full name to 205-834-9450. Again, the keyword is football and your full name to 205-834-9450. Winners are drawn and notified daily. For more information, visit joxfm.com.
All right, let's go to the Higginbotham Highline now. Welcome in Bill Connolly of ESPN. There's a pressing question, Bill, that we have had for quite some time. You put out your returning production charts months ago. It's been a long time, and we meant to have you on then. We didn't. Now that we're approaching college football, I wanted to have you on for multiple reasons, but this has to be solved. Returning production for players that were productive but not productive on the team that they're currently playing for the previous year. How do you factor that in? The guy that rushes for 1,100 yards at Boise and is now playing at Michigan, whatever. How does that all play into your returning production?
Yeah, I mean, really, I keep calling it returning production because it's easier, but it is returning plus incoming production. It's the simple way that I was doing this 10 years ago is still it's effective enough to keep doing. You basically take that 1,100 rushing yards and you plug it into Michigan's or whoever's the numerator and the denominator, so to speak. So you lose a starting quarterback, but you also go get a starting quarterback who had the same number of passing yards, and you return 50% of last year's passing yards. And that's the best way. Like if you bring up a guy from FCS, it only counts for like half the weight. You only get half credit for that. But otherwise, I've tried to keep things as simple as possible, and it's at least reasonably effective.
When you look at freshmen, and I know returning production's a different animal, but how do you project the freshmen's contributions, a la Bryce Underwood at Michigan? Do you base it off of recruiting ranking? How do you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, it really, the preseason projections are still loosely based on what they've always have been. There's a returning production aspect, there's a recent history aspect, and there's a recruiting rankings aspect. So for Bryce Underwood as the example, it's not going to really factor in all that much. Like, he's going to impact the recruiting rankings, which will, because, I mean, you're basically looking at, like, for the production you don't return, how good is the caliber of the athletes, that you're plugging in there. And so that'll be part of it. But Michigan, it's really interesting. Michigan ranks uncomfortably high. My final SP Plus rankings are going up tomorrow, or projections are going up tomorrow. Michigan's going to be like 8th, and it makes, I don't like that. I don't, that's a little too high. But even without factoring in that they signed the number one high school quarterback in the country, the overall numbers still look pretty good for them.
Yeah, you think he's going to help somewhat. It's just it's tough to kind of roll all that into the same spot. Right. So who should we anticipate will surprise people maybe on the positive end when your article comes out tomorrow? A team that because we just went through teams that we think can win a national championship. Some of those are going to be long shots from an odds perspective, but who do you feel like people are going to see in maybe some of your numbers and say, wow, okay, that's better than I imagined?
Yeah, I think, the biggest one, and this has been the case all off season, so if you've seen like the February projections or May, you're not going to be surprised. But Alabama being second is certainly against what the polls say. And that's where they're going to start in SP Plus. And biggest reason is, what SP Plus tries to gauge is it's not looking at who you beat and who you lost to. It's not a resume rating. It's purely designed to be a power rating. They graded out pretty well last year because even with last year's late season collapse, when they looked good, they looked better than just about anybody in the country. Like that win over LSU was about the most impressive anybody looked all season. So their upside was still pretty obvious, and they graded out okay because of that. So, combine that with good returning production, like the defense returns quite intact, especially by Alabama standards, and good recruiting rankings. I know why they end up number 2. It's still a little higher than I would rank them if I was a pollster, but it's still, they're right in that mix, and I think it's going to throw people off because they look so poor at the very, very tail end of the season.
How do you factor in the second-year coaching boost Well, I know a lot of your focus is on returning production. I get that, but there has to be some type of quotient that would account for comfort level within the system. Ryan Grubb's addition, Kalen DeBoer's second year, Kane Womack's second year. How does that factor in?
Yeah, I've attempted a little bit of a coaching. There's a little bit of a coaching part in the equation this year, just based on a couple things. First of all, yeah, there is kind of a second year effect. It's not as trustworthy now as it used to be, since you can now sign 50 transfers in your first year and everything. Like, everything's a little bit blurrier than it used to be, when you could kind of count on if a guy's going to break through, it's going to happen in year two. So that's not a huge factor, but also just how you've been performing against your historical average, like Oklahoma as an example. I wanted to kind of incorporate that because OU's offense last year was shockingly bad, worst they've had in 25 years. And we know just instinctively there's going to be a progression toward the mean this season because all the factors that went into them having a bad offense. It's probably going to, I wanted to bake in some improvement in that regard, especially if it correlates with a coordinator change. So, Alabama last season not grading out as well as they had been on offense and changing their coordinator. It's not going to specifically say that Ryan Grubb's the coordinator, but it's just going to see that there's a new coordinator and kind of factor that in as well. That's not a huge factor because, with coaching changes, everything's zero sum, and even if the new hire makes sense, it's only going to impact things so much if everybody else's hires make sense too. But I did try to incorporate that at least a little bit.
Bill Connolly joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline of ESPN. As you heard him just state, the updated SP rankings will be out tomorrow. But going back to the post-spring, Bill, I think the biggest surprise for most people had to be Ohio State being at 1. Just because of the massive departures from where we view productivity first, quarterback, running back, now receiver, a lot coming back still, but they did lose the school's all-time receptions leader at the end of the day, no matter how you want to play that defensive line, sacks, TFLs. I mean, all the places that we emphasize statistics felt like they took multiple massive losses. How could the Buckeyes be there, and do you think they're going to be there again?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ohio State, more than anybody in the country besides maybe Georgia, gets the kind of the benefit of the doubt when it comes to any recent history factor is going to favor them dramatically. Any recruiting rankings factor is going to favor them dramatically. And the fact that, national champions usually lose a ton, and therefore the fact that they only rank in like the 80s or 90s in returning production because they do, the skill core, especially the receiving core, is still pretty experienced. There's some decent, especially in the secondary, I believe, on defense. There's quite a bit returning. So, that the fact that they rank in the 80s or 90s for a national champion is actually pretty decent. And they are projected to fall a little bit. It's just everybody around them is also projected to fall a little bit. So it really is interesting. I mean, with the preseason polls this year, I felt Texas was overrated at number 1, but I realized that I was going to think anybody was overrated because it feels like we just have a bunch of 3s and 4s this year, which could make for a really interesting national title race. But there was nobody that was going to end up number 1 where I was just going to be like, you know what? Yes, that's absolutely the number 1 team in the country heading into the season.
Is there a team, and you referenced Michigan already, I think that's a great example, but outside of maybe the Wolverines, is there a team that kind of shocked you with how the numbers have kind of sorted out for them that you think could overextend?
Yeah, I think Ole Miss is going to be 9th, and that's another one that I'd have them in the teens probably. But again, it's same reason as Alabama. They graded out so well last year. Their losses, from a statistical standpoint, were a little on the fluky side. Like, even though both Kentucky and Florida were closer than they should have been, still, like, the stats those games produced suggested, like, Ole Miss is going to win that game more often than not. And you think about some of the plays, especially in the Kentucky game, like, yeah, that's best of 7. Ole Miss probably wins in 5 or 6 games. But they did lose, and so it looked really weird when they finished last year second in SP+, and the main reason was their upside was so enormous when they looked good. I was mentioning Alabama, LSU. Did anybody all year look better than Ole Miss did against Georgia, for instance? So yeah, they finished second last year. They lose a ton. I don't love their transfer haul as much, but because they ended last year so high, they only fell so far, and therefore they're only at 9. And I'd probably have them a little bit lower than that.
A team that I'm just going to kind of take a flyer here, Bill, and Bill Connolly joining us in the Higginbotham Hotline, that I feel like is going to be sort of a statistical anomaly right now and maybe even through a large portion of the season. South Carolina was 17th in your post-spring rankings. they have a couple of positions that I would imagine statistically would be dominant as far as returning productions. They have a lot lost, and they have a lot of question marks. Where would South Carolina kind of fall for you?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be 17th tomorrow too, and that's probably about right. I mean, obviously, the good things are great, but even last year, I mean, I saw a lot of people have them pretty close to the top 10 just in terms of the individual top 25 rankings and everything, and it does make me kind of uncomfortable too, because I think they're getting a big boost from the good plays Sellers made last year, and we kind of forgot that all the plays he didn't make last year, all the 3 and outs, they were not an efficient offense at all. Even the Clemson game, which I think, any sort of Heisman hype he has, any sort of hype period, a lot of that comes from the Clemson game where he made 2 spectacular plays and they scored 17 points. Like, those 2 plays were almost it for the entire game. And so there's got to be a level of consistency there on offense, especially considering, they have one of the best pass rushers in the country in Dylan Stewart, and that's almost all the returns in the front 6. So it is going to be a really interesting year for them. I feel like South Carolina generally under Beamer has been a team where the high points are really high, and then we kind of forget about the low points. And we'll see if they're able to generate consistency with the turnover involved. I don't know if they will or not.
They're one of the more fascinating teams that I think have some boom or bust potential, but man, I'm a little bearish right now with how much they lost on defense and the leadership they lost on that side of the ball. One other team that I'm really curious about with your evaluation is Texas A&M. Cole and I are kind of split on them. I like the Aggies a lot. I think they're really good along both lines of scrimmage. I think they've upgraded the receiver core in some spots. I think they're going to be healthy at running back, which will be helpful. I think Marcel Reed in year 2 will be better. Where are you at right now with the Aggies?
So every year in July, I have one of my annual pieces is called the ifs list. Like, how many ifs does it take me to make you a national title contender? So like a new quarterback, obviously, if he clicks, things like that. There are always 2 or 3 teams that only have 2 ifs that kind of lead the way. And this year, those teams were Penn State and Alabama, actually, which maybe I am as high as I thought as the numbers on Alabama. That kind of surprised me a little. But among the batch of 3 if teams, so there's Ohio State, there's Georgia, et cetera. A&M was one of them because they're just not that far away, especially if the running backs are as good as they certainly look on paper. They return in a year when almost nobody at the top of the game returns their offensive line. Their entire offensive line's back, and it's enormous. The defensive line did lose a few people, but still returns a healthy amount of the rotation, adds a bunch of guys with experience on the defensive line. Obviously, the receiving core I don't trust at all. That was one of the ifs. But really, if Reed just develops normally, I'm not sure he has the upside that some of these other SEC quarterbacks do, but we already know he's solid. If he just develops as a normal sophomore would, and if a receiver kind of becomes a reliable go-to kind of guy, what else are they missing from being a top 10 caliber team? They're going to be great in the trenches, and they have at least a solid quarterback. That feels like a borderline top 10 team to me.
Where are you on Auburn? Because some of that production we talked about going from one place to another, there's a lot of it that's coming in. Now, some of that production was also not great at times, but it feels like if you're just going statistics, numbers, productivity, going from one place to the other, there should be a pretty big jump on the Plains this year.
Yeah, I mean, big pieces of the SP Plus equation come from like the success rate, that number where, if you get 50% on first down, 50% of your yards on first down, 70% on second, 100% on third or fourth, like just that on base percentage for football. That's a humongous part of SP Plus, and Auburn was quite a bit more efficient than its opponents last year. Auburn made more big plays than their opponents last year, and that alone should make you like an 8 or 9 win team, except they were so dramatically awful in the red zone, especially on offense. They were so dramatically awful from a turnovers perspective. Those things aren't supposed to be as sustainable, but it happened like every single week last year. And so from a number standpoint, this is absolutely a top 25 team. Like obviously the turnover at quarterback dings them a little bit, but they return a ton otherwise. Like, sure feels like there's a lot going right here, but they were so reliably self-destructive in those areas that it's a burden of proof thing. Like on paper, they're absolutely top 25, but I gotta see that in a close game, in a red zone situation, that they're actually going to make the plays this year. And if they're relying on Jackson Arnold, like, he's got a lot to prove too. So I'm not completely sure that's going to work out. But no, the talent's the talent. It's pretty obvious.
Bill, we appreciate the time, man. Great stuff. We'll be looking out for it. We'll share that article on our social media when it comes out tomorrow, but appreciate you previewing it and giving us some time today.
Absolutely. Much appreciated.
There you go. Bill Connolly of ESPN, SP Plus rankings, how the statistics work, where they go, how they operate. It's kind of cool to hear from him on just how that goes. But we know exactly how it goes at Bromberg's, G-Mac.
Yeah, it's the very best experience you can possibly have when taking into account the possibility of adding something that might be in your family for multiple generations. Go and check out Bromberg's today. You'll understand why. The second you walk in the door, you'll see the incredible selection, the service staff that's knowledgeable, that can get you pointed in the right direction to make sure that you buy a piece of jewelry that your loved ones will absolutely cherish for a very, very long time. So go and check out Bromberg's. They're renovating the Mountain Brook store to elevate that experience even further. But they're still open during renovations, so you can go in and just know that here in a few months, when it's done, it's going to be absolutely state-of-the-art. It was great before. It's going to be even better now. You can check them out in that Mountain Brook Village store, or you can go and check them out at the Summit. It's Bromberg's.
All right, when we come back, we begin to go around the SEC. We'll talk to Steve Robertson about Mississippi State, where they're headed, and you'll hear from multiple coaches for the rest of this hour. That's all next right here on Jox. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is 8:20, Wednesday, August 13th, right here on Jox. Appreciate you tuning in. You can listen online, joxfm.com, apps in your app store, iPhone, Android. You can download that for free. Tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jox skill. You can always tune in that way. And watch us live on YouTube each and every morning by searching Jox 945.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champion of GMC dealers. They've won it 5 years in a row. That's a dynasty. Ladies and gentlemen, they're just up the road, up I-65, exit 310, Highway 31. You can be there in no time whatsoever, and you'll understand why it was worth making that short drive, because the deals they have on the lot are off the charts. Like a GMC Sierra, 1500 SLT, really nice vehicle, X31 off-road package, you name it. They got all the nice bells and whistles on this vehicle. You'd normally pay $67,000 or so. At Bill Smith, you're going to get it for around $53,000. $14,000 off the sticker. You can get an Encore GX. It's a Buick Encore GX, sporty, economical SUV, under $25,000. Other places you're paying nearly $30,000. So I'm telling you, the deals are incredible, and the service and the experience that you have working with Andy Cole and Jonathan Yeager is second to none as well. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers, because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take the short drive to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online, have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right, let's go back to the Higginbotham hotline. Steve Robertson covers the Mississippi State Bulldogs here now to give us a camp update. Offensively, the situation going into last year, Steve, was Blake Shapen had to be healthy to make this offense go. We saw what it was with him and then without him, and it did get better without him. However, that quarterback no longer with the team. Where is this quarterback room right now for Jeff Levy?
Well, I think it's actually in better shape than it was last year. I mean, you know, Blake Shapen is a guy that has had some injuries. I mean, it's not something that's just like been at startable. I mean, you know, he was injured at Baylor, and I think last year the depth behind him was much different, because you had the true freshman Michael Van Buren, who was a Levy guy, and you had Chris Parson, who was a Leach guy. Well, now you've got all Levy guys, right? You've got Luke Krovenhoek, a transfers in from Florida State. You got Kamario Taylor, a guy that people are extremely excited about here. I don't know how much he plays this year, but I think the depth is better. I think the natural talent is better. But the main thing is, if State's going to chase a bowl game, Blake Shapen has to be healthy this year.
What about the pieces around them? It sounds like with the addition of Fluff Bothwell, they're still going to run the football. I know it's what Levy wants to be. But how much will actually be on Shapen's shoulders to be active in the run game? Or is he going to be a little more protected because they have new emergence and more depth at the running back spot?
Yeah, I think you've absolutely nailed that. And they've talked about his playing style, that he can't take the unnecessary hit. He is a competitor, and you know how that goes when the juice is flowing. You want to go make a play for your team, but you know the best ability is availability. This running back room basically returns intact, and then you've added Fluff Bothwell from South Alabama. Of course, you get Davin Booth back because of the Pavia rolling, and that was unexpected. And then Johnny is a guy, too, that was kind of a complimentary piece last year, but, ran for almost 600 yards. And so with the revamped offensive line, and I say that kind of with a caveat, because there are 4 guys back that had a ton of SEC snaps under their belt, but then they went and committed a lot of scholarships and a lot of revenue to getting some more offensive linemen once Phil Lodeholt got here. So that's kind of the challenge of the offense right now, is kind of finding that 8 or 9 guys that can make plays for you in the offensive line. But we feel like the rest of the pieces around Blake Shapen, should be capable of winning some football games.
What are the pieces defensively? Because we know how far that group needs to go. We know what the improvements need to look like based on what we saw a season ago. But what are the pieces that are either returning or maybe there that you're hearing could help that unit look drastically different from maybe what they did last season?
Well, it all starts with Isaac Smith. Obviously, he's a guy that plays star, and that nomenclature has been a real challenge for some in the media that are kind of football challenged. But, he's a guy that's going to move around a little bit. As always, led the SEC in tackles last year, but he had to make a lot of tackles because, that front was just like a salve. I mean, it's just one of those deals where there's a couple of games where they started a true freshman in Kyle McClendon and then a junior college guy that they added in June in Corey Clark. And in the Southeastern Conference, that's just not going to get it done. So they went out and spent a ton of money allocated a ton of scholarship spots to rebuild that defensive line. On paper and on the practice field, they look like an SEC defensive line is supposed to look, and that's half the battle. But I think the group that excites me the most on this defense is the linebacker room. You add Jalen Smith from Tennessee. You've got a kid named Zachary Tillman that kind of worked his way into the lineup late last year and just flashed every time he was on the field. I think he's going to be a very valuable part of that two deep. And Isaac Smith, as the star, is going to line up a lot in the box too. About half the snaps last year basically came at outside linebacker. And so I like the look of this linebacker room, but I don't think they're going to have to carry the burden maybe quite as largely as they did last year, because I do think the front will be better. And I think if State can just be good on defense, they got a chance to get 6. I don't think they got to be great or be elite, but just be good, get some stops, give this offense a chance.
But isn't that, just a massive jump? To go from where they were at 126 last year in total defense to good, obviously that interpretation could be anywhere, but what's realistic? Is it a top 50 unit? What are we thinking here?
And that's a good question, right? Because, again, I think it all starts up front. That defensive line group was so thin last year. And if they can be decent, and maybe it's even top 75, Greg. I think this is a defense, number one, last year was historically bad. And so if they can just be an average defense in the SEC, then, I think some big things could happen. But, you're right. There's a lot of moving pieces to this. You bring in Vincent Dancy as a guy now to coach the edges and the outside backers to generate more pass rush. State had 10 sacks last year. And, a couple of those came in one game. And so it's just ridiculous to think that a program that's kind of been built on the running game and defense historically can't play better defense. And Coleman Hutzler's a guy that Levy absolutely stood behind him and brought in some pieces to help him. You bring in Mac McIntyre and Paul Rhodes as defensive analysts to help pretty much as needed. And so it's not like Levy just kind of ran it back. They went out and made a lot of changes with the personnel group, but also within the coaching staff. And so now it's just time to go see if they can make it happen.
Visiting with Steve Robertson, covers the Mississippi State Bulldogs. And what do you feel like Jeff Lebby wants to change, wants to alter, wants to do differently this year? Is there anything schematically that maybe he looked at last year and feels like going into this year, we're going to handle this a different way? We're going to try to be different in this aspect of our football team, obviously, than just improving on being able to be better.
Yeah, and that's interesting, too. One thing I'll say about Jeff Lebby is, like, last year, win, lose, or draw, like on Mondays, he was always kind of the same guy. Right, like there was just this even keel personality with him. The energy in the building was kind of the same. I know that he's a competitor and it gets to him if they lose, but he never really showed that with us. I don't know what he showed with the team, but there was just never this high and low type thing. We've had some coaches in the past that kind of talk to their players through the media. I never got that sense with Jeff last year, but I think the main thing with him is just having his quarterback, Blake, and Van Buren last year. I remember getting the phone call that Blake was out for the year, and I immediately said, well, there goes the season. It's over. It was already in bad shape. And then, well, that's it. So just let Michael Van Buren take his lumps, and then we'll see what happens next year. And then, of course, he's no longer with the program, which may end up being an addition by subtraction, because I think Krobenhock is the guy that gives you a chance to win this year. But I think the whole thing with Jeff is just he's got to go out there and have guys buy into his vision. They played hard for him last year, even in defeat, but I think they've got to believe totally in everything that Levy is preaching in order for this football program to go forward. And he's a great human being. After all this program has been through, I remember talking to Mason Miller, who was former offensive line coach at State under Leach, and he's at Baylor now. And I remember calling him, telling him, hey, it's going to be Levy. And he said, this is what those kids need, because Jeff is a great human being. He said these kids need somebody to kind of love on them, but also to hold them accountable. And after all they've been through with Leach's passing and then the one-year Arnett experience, and things had to kind of settle. And that's what this football program needs, is some continuity and some consistency. And just to have maybe a normal year would be great.
All right, Steve, before we let you go, health-wise, where is Mississippi State right now so far through fall camp?
Yeah, they're a little bit guarded about that, as you know. But we have a few people that help us a little bit. But yeah, so far things look good. I mean, they've had a couple guys a little bit banged up. They do lose Kyle McClendon for the year back in the spring, and that was finally announced. At the opening of fall camp. But but by and large, the group looks to be good. I mean, the few times that we've been out there, we're always kind of monitoring to see who's in the yellow jersey and maybe who's not there. We begin to ask questions. But, so far so good. I asked Levy after the scrimmage on Sunday, where are you health-wise? And, of course, he knocks on wood, and he goes, right now we're healthy. And so, that's where the things look right now. And, we'll get ready to play a football game here in about 3 weeks down the road at Southern Miss, which, who knows what to expect down there. But Mississippi State's got to focus on Mississippi State. Go out there, run their schemes, and get back to playing Bulldog football.
Absolutely. All right, appreciate the time, Steve. Great stuff. Always enjoy catching up with you. We'll do it again soon.
Hey, man, take care.
There you go. Steve Robertson covers the Mississippi State Bulldogs, joining us on the Higginbotham hotline. A couple of those things that he mentioned, that he referenced, talking about sort of retention of players. We know some of that productivity being gone for Jeff Lebby. But some of the guys that he was able to keep around, we'll talk about those here in just a moment. But first, I'll tell you about Gusty Goulas and the Gusty Goulas Group. When you need to get into a new home, there's one thing that you need to do. Call the Gusty Goulas Group, 205-542-1996. Go to GustyGoulasGroup.com today. You'll see more than 830 five-star Google reviews when you Google Gusty Goulas Group. Serve more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the Birmingham area. Also, since 2012, Gusty Goulas Group recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. Call them today. See what they can do for you. Brokered by eXp Realty, 205-542-1996, or go to Gusty Goulas Group and start packing. GustyGoulasGroup.com, and start packing. Saber, let's go to clip 18. Jeff Lebby. This is sort of just his thoughts on retaining players, keeping players inside your program.
The retention piece of it, installs have been heavy. We've put a lot on them. We want to create some stress for them to see how they're going to respond. And as you can imagine, there's been some good and there's been some not so good. So a ton to clean up, ton of work to do. But again, our guys right now they're dialed into getting better.
All right. Also, Jeff Lebby yesterday on the defense and where it's catching his attention here as of late.
What I loved was, defensively found a way to create turnovers and some negative plays. And that for me was a great thing to see from the defensive side of the ball. Man, when they got their hands on the ball, made plays, created some huge momentum plays in the scrimmage. And that was good to see. And it was a unit. Kelly Jones had a score touchdown from 50, 60 yards out, which was great to see. And again, just guys making plays. We've talked about that nonstop. When you're in position to make it, and we got to make it. And so, again, we were far from perfect, but we've got a chance to build on that.
All right, so that's Jeff Lebby out of Starkville updating us on Mississippi State just a little bit. When we come back, we'll go to Knoxville, we'll go to Columbia, South Carolina, we'll go to Fayetteville, Arkansas, and more. A little bit of Oxford, Mississippi to take you around the SEC right after this on Jox. 800-239-9569. You want to get in, talk anything around the SEC, what's happening through fall camp, what we're hearing, what we're seeing. We'll go to multiple coaches around the league, players around the league, to get some thoughts on how things are progressing so far through fall practice. But first, Sean in Birmingham has a question on the Higginbotham hotline. Sean, welcome into the show. How are you?
Hey, great to be with you guys. Thanks for signing on, both of you, committing to each other. Another great season. You make a great team, I think.
Oh, well, thank you. I haven't committed to anything. But
I didn't know we had an option. Is there a portal for broadcasters? I mean, we need to explore it.
There were not multiple hats on my table because the things could have gone south if there were.
Well, I think if you stay the course, you'll be living legends. I really do. More so than you already are. So here's my question. I haven't heard this discussed anywhere else, and I'm surprised. So, Greg, you answer this better than anyone else, but I'd love to hear both of you speak to it. If Nick Saban was still the coach at Alabama, would Alabama be rated higher or lower this preseason? Because I think most people would agree that Kalen DeBoer on the field coaching, very comparable. Saban's the GOAT, obviously, building a program. But if we could determine and vote for ourselves, Saban was still the coach, would they be rated higher or lower? I think that tells us definitively if Alabama's underranked or overranked. And I'll hang up and let you guys argue about it.
Appreciate the call. It's an interesting thought because I think immediately you say, well, if the Saban effect was still there, they would obviously be higher. But I do think also, Greg, with the way that maybe the previous season ended, if it were to have gone exactly the way it did last year again, you'd be having a lot of people standing up saying, ship has sailed. This is it. You're not going to get these dominant national title contenders anymore. So I don't know if I look at it and automatically say they would have been higher than 8. Now maybe 6, 7, but I don't think they'd be in the top 3 just because Coach Saban was there.
I don't know if they'd be top 3, but I bet you they wouldn't be worse than 4. Just based on how the media treats Coach Saban and the amount of built-in equity that the program experienced over the course of 16, 17 years. When you're putting together a top 25, what is it a lot of times? It's a lot of risk avoidance, right? Okay, well, you know what? Those that don't have Penn State number 1, why did they not have Penn State number 1? Because of precedent. What's happened in the past? Every time someone discusses Penn State's situation this year, what do they say? They say, well, he hasn't beaten Ohio State. I get that. Guess what? We're singing the same song. They're a tough team to trust. And with Coach Saban, they were pretty dang trustworthy. So if you're an AP poll voter, for example, and you decide to put the Tide in your top 3 in the preseason, then you were probably going to be pretty safe considering Bama made the playoff almost every year of the 14 playoffs existence. So I think it's a little bit of risk aversion when putting together a list, and with Coach Saban and the familiarity that you had with the program, I think it's kind of understandable that he probably was given the benefit of the doubt more often than not.
Sure. I go back to that Rose Bowl finish and how things went and the amount of people that were sort of just waiting to hop on that train of, oh, he's done. Oh, he's reached the end of the road. And I feel like there would have been just easier for that many more people to jump on board with that. Not saying that it was right, not saying that it should be that, but like I know, there are a lot of people that were sort of waiting to begin to paint that picture of Coach Saban that, his ship had sailed and his time had come and it was going to be never like it was prior, which with how college football is structured today, that was probably impossible anyway. But not that he couldn't have put together a team that can go win a national championship. All right, so but a fair question and a good question and one that I appreciate. Arkansas offense coordinator Bobby Petrino, offense in their scrimmage, how he thought they fared here recently.
Came out and executed really well early. They were making good decisions and being very accurate. Thing that was fun about it is a lot of different receivers made plays, tight ends made plays. We had a running back that can take it the distance, so that was fun. You don't have to call so many plays when he can take it and go score. Flashes of Niall Davis out there faster than anybody else on the field, so that's fun. That's really enjoyable.
Boy, Niall Davis had some injuries, but there was a minute when he could get it at Arkansas. Dude could tote the rock. I'm going to go to two that I'm going to love. Greg's going to hate me for this one. First,
Oh, boy.
Brett Norfleet, one of my favorites in the SEC, tight end at Missouri, a name that you probably need to know if you don't, and how he feels like that tight end room in Columbia is growing.
These past 2 weeks of fall camp, you can definitely see the growth of the room. Some of the younger guys have stepped up, like Jude James. He's had a really good camp. Me and Jay, just kind of getting back out there. So yeah.
All right, that's a room that can help Missouri extend, GMAC, especially with Norfleet on the field. What he sort of adds to the run game that some other tight ends wouldn't can be a big piece of why Missouri maybe exceeds expectations.
Well, if you just look at Missouri, the schedule is why most people are really bullish, understandably, especially knowing that there were 6 teams in the SEC that had losing records in the conference last year, and 5 of those 6 teams are on Missouri's schedule. They also host some of their toughest games with hosting Bama and South Carolina in their backyard. I think Missouri's got everything you could want. The biggest question for Missouri continues to be the offensive line. Eli Drinkwitz basically told us that. I think quarterback's going to be fine. I think running back's going to be fine. I love Norfleet, like you said, one of the better players in the league at his position. I think defensively they got a chance to actually be quite a bit better than last year, potentially.
Yeah.
But the offensive line, a huge issue, especially knowing how they do things.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. Speaking of offensive line, here you go, GMAC. Bill Beatenbow, one of the best to do it.
Oh, boy.
On what players are having to do to earn it on the field for Oklahoma's offensive line this year.
It's really like anybody, just consistency. It's not the flash things that they do. It's not the freaky athleticism. It's doing things right over and over. And that's not any position. You know what I mean? As of right now, they're going to play. Whether they start or not, we'll see. I think we're in the 9th practice, but they've proved enough to, have a chance to get on the field. And, I think we've got, some pretty good competition, especially interior right now. So, the biggest thing with every guy is being consistent day in and day out. And especially, when you're going against a really good defense, a really good D-line, you're going to take some lumps, but you got to learn from it and not make the same mistakes over and over again.
All right, so that's Bill Beatenbow on that Oklahoma offensive line, Greg. If it comes together, and if it's just I don't want to just above average, but if it's, like you say, not a liability, man, that offense has a chance to be super scary this year.
Yeah, I think that's massive. And if that offense can gel, look out, right? There can be a lot of really positive things. So they're going to score. That's not something I'm super concerned about. I think continuity and health is the question, right? That was the problem last year. I think at one point they had 5 receivers out. And you have a new quarterback and a new play caller, and they're going to make things tough on the opposing defenses. But if guys are hurt and you can't win matchups, I don't know what you do. So I think staying healthy is the biggest thing for them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So it's one of those things where Oklahoma's offensive line last year just went through so many issues, so many problems. Guys healthy, guys not healthy. It's going to be interesting to see just kind of what they can be, what they could be this year. A couple more.
How good can the O-line be? Like, seriously, how good can the O-line be? I know they'll be better than last year, but how good can they be overall?
Yeah, can they go back to that, what was it, the 18-19 Oklahoma group that won the Joe Moore Award? I don't think they can be that good. I think they can be solid. I think they can be top half of the SEC maybe. Do I think they can be better than A&M, Alabama, Georgia? Probably not. I don't see that. I've seen Troy Everett play. I think he's a solid football player. Nwaiwu, I think, has a Weewu, I think it is. I forget how you pronounce his last name. I think it's Weewu, actually. I think he's like super talented. I think he could be one of the best that they have. Like Jacob Sexton is just kind of a little more than serviceable guy, but can be a good college football player. Like they don't have the guys that they had in some of those groups. Like, obviously we could say it's about any team, but there's not a Trent Williams there. Sorry, there's just not.
Well, that's okay.
There's not even a Creed Humphrey.
I don't think there's a Trent Williams on the Philadelphia Eagles too, and they're fine.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Hopefully they have a Landon Dickerson healthy for the upcoming season. But yeah, I think they can be. And listen, like I know with that offense and the quick game and how they're going to spread you out a little bit and quarterback run, they don't have to be a dominant group. They can hurt you a lot of other ways that's going to help them be successful. Couple more head coaches, couple more coordinators around the SEC coming up next right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you tuning in. 8:50 as we inch towards college football season. August 13th, Wednesday. Greg in Atlanta. Be back in Birmingham tomorrow. Before we get into more audio from SEC coaches, players, it's been really comfortable for about the last week here in Birmingham. That is coming to an end. The heat is going to be back, and you're going to want a train. Because that Alabama heat and humidity can be brutal. Don't let it affect your home and family. Keep them comfortable with an affordable train cooling system. They've been recognized as America's most trusted brand 11 consecutive years. And they're the official cooling partner here at Jox. Find a comfort specialist near you at train.com. It is hard to stop a train. Okay. Let's go to Oxford, Mississippi. Lane Kiffin asked if the defense playing well enough in the scrimmage for his liking.
Yeah, a combination of that. I thought the defense came out with really good energy, especially after the first drive, and did some really good things and made some really good plays, good pass rush that created some turnovers, good plays in the secondary, and, quarterbacks, like most scrimmages, some that they wish they could have back, and some things to learn from in those.
Obviously referencing a little bit of Austin Simmons there, which Lane would go on to ask about some of those or answer questions about some of the errors, mistakes Austin Simmons has made so far in fall camp.
Yeah, made some critical errors and rebounded and played well later on. So that was, I look at in big picture, that's good for it to happen because he really hadn't had many critical errors the entire camp. And so sometimes, it's a lot better to have him in the scrimmage in the game. So it's good to learn from.
So that's Lane Kiffin just on his defense, Greg, and his quarterback. Listen, Austin Simmons still young, like literally in age and in experience. You expect some of those mistakes to happen along the way. There's still going to be some growing pains with this young man, regardless of how impressive he is.
Crazy talented. Doesn't mean there can't be some growing pains. The big thing, though, with the young quarterback is don't try to overcompensate for the previously made mistake. So many times with young quarterbacks, after they make a mistake, we even saw it with Tua in the national championship game against Clemson. As good as he was, as talented as he was, he made a mistake early in the game and tried to get it all back on the next throw. And that just, you can't do that because that's when mistakes can be compounded. And when you compound mistakes, it can spiral out of control. So allow the mistake to live, learn from it, correct it, get it adjusted, and just play the next play as if the previous mistake never happened. And that's hard for young guys to do because you're so badly wanting to get it back for your team. You feel like you owe it to your team because you made an error, and all of a sudden one mistake turns into two, turns into three, what have you. So I think that's the big thing with him. It's not about talent, it's about maturity. And just playing each snap as if it has a life of its own.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. Going to Columbia, South Carolina, Shane Beamer, on if he thinks his team further along in camp this year than last.
I would think situational football. There were some days last year where having a new quarterback, whether it be Lenoris or Robbie, and it's their first time going through a lot of those scenarios. There were a couple of walkthroughs where I blew a gasket last year, and because it wasn't getting operated and we didn't make good decisions. Not that we're perfect, myself included, because you're always learning and trying to be better in those situations. We did something today that clockwise that, I learned from as well. But I think we're so much farther along from that standpoint where Lenoris goes out there and we do the same thing that we did last year, and it's just, and he's just a machine at it. And Luke, really good. And, they remembered that walkthrough last year didn't go as well. And Luke kind of grabbed me afterwards. He's like, we got your back this year, Coach. Like, we're good. We're so much farther along. And he's right. We spent a lot of time on it, just like last year. And we spent so much time talking about it throughout the season. I think we're farther along, at least at the quarterback position.
What did he say things have sounded like in fall camp so far?
It's like a train noise, like just a train.
What was that? What was that, Shane? Got it. Okay. It sounds like South Carolina's chugging right along. There you go. Okay. Ryan Grubb discussing on why Ty Simpson was named the Alabama starting quarterback.
I didn't know about the opening statement. Hey guys, Ty Simpson's our starter. How's that? Pretty good? Okay, let it ride. What do we got?
Why's Ty Simpson your starter?
There we go. Good follow-up. Ty did a really nice job of, taking care of the football. I think number one, I think Ty is an incredible playmaker on the move, and I think from there, guys like that, you worry, are they going to be able to train themselves to be able to take care of the football? And I just even the room in general, Ty led that charge, but Ty didn't throw any picks last week. He's thrown one all camp. We've thrown 4 total this camp, and this spring, I think at this time we had thrown 15. So I think in general the guys are understanding the concepts and control the offense a lot better as a room, and Ty was the best at that. And so his ability to command and create out of the pocket I thought was the best, make great decisions, and he's just much cleaner on some of the things that you expect an older quarterback to be able to do.
So there you go. Ryan Grubb on Ty Simpson. 1 interception so far through fall camp. You love to hear that news if you're an Alabama fan. The decision-making, the ability to make those decisions cleanly, quickly, accurately. Sounds like Ty Simpson has that under control for the Alabama offense, and that could be good news for the Crimson Tide this fall. Fozzie Whitaker is going to update us on the Texas offensive line health, Arch Manning, and more from Austin right after this on Jox. Final hour, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 9 a.m. Wednesday, August 13th, right here on Jox. Listen online, joxfm.com. Apps in your app store. You can go listen there. We heard from a couple of other offensive coordinators, head coaches around the SEC. We're going to go to Austin, Texas, talk to Fozzie Whitaker, now with ESPN. Played for the Longhorns, lives in Austin, covers the Longhorns now, covers college football. And it feels like the offensive line depth already taken a few hits so far in fall camp, Fozzie, and that's a group that has to replace a lot of experience and a lot of talent. Where would you just say your comfort level is with that group right now as we approach kickoff?
Hey, what's up, fellas? Appreciate y'all having me on. And to answer your question, I would probably say that's where I'm the most concerned, even not just with the offense, but the entire team. If I had to pinpoint an area where I would love a little bit stronger confidence in there, and losing Andre Kojo obviously is a blow to that depth, like you mentioned, as he was trying to battle for that right tackle position. But it's an area that you talked about. These guys last year had one of the best offensive line groups that Texas had seen in a very, very long time. Multiple guys drafted, which hadn't happened at the offensive line position for Texas in forever. And those guys really showcased who they were and helped keep that offense afloat and continuously keeping Quinn safe, and obviously the run game. It was what it was. So having to replace those four guys, it means a lot. And obviously, Cole, you know exactly how that's feel, trying to get the consistency and continuity and the chemistry down with your fellow brethren. That's the most difficult position on the offensive side of the ball, is getting all five guys to work in accordance with each other, and doing that against people that are freaks of nature on the other side. And obviously, Greg, you know how important it is to have that chemistry and continuity to stay upright, and to continue to make the checks, or continue to put your offense in the best position to win. So it's an area of concern, but I do believe they have the right person coaching them. Obviously, Kyle Flood and his pedigree and what he's been able to showcase, and the amount of development that he's shown in his 4 years, now going on 5 years at the University of Texas, and having as many players drafted as he's had in the previous two seasons, kind of goes to show you that developmental strength and the power that he has as a coach, and the way that they've been able to recruit. And I will add a little bit of additional comfort with Kyle Flood being the coach, is that the guys that are coming in to replace the people that we saw last year, they have been in the program and in the system. So they're not seeing football for the first time at the collegiate level and against SEC competition. They've rotated in last year, and guys have experience. So that is a small bonus that I don't want to undermine with these guys that'll be trying to keep Arch Manning upright for the entire season.
Well, the one thing I continue to hear about, though, is just a reminder that how good Arch Manning has been with his legs in fall camp. I've heard the offensive line struggled against those edge rushers. I get it. It makes sense. But Arch's legs can help this offensive line a lot. My only fear is, would he potentially run too much and expose himself to injury? Because we've seen Texas quarterbacks get banged up in each of the last 3 or 4 years. So how much have his legs been utilized so far in fall camp?
You know, it hasn't necessarily been a focal point. Like, it's not like a particular short yardage package or anything in particular that Sark has kind of, I guess, implemented, or at least that I can tell that's been implemented. But I guess the best positive about having a mobile quarterback, or a guy that can get loose in open space, is obviously extending plays and being able to keep his eyes downfield while being able to extend those plays. And if he needs to, he can tuck it. But obviously safety is going to be the number one priority, because you want to protect the valuable asset that Arch Manning is. And he has a strong arm, so I can see him escaping the pocket, still looking downfield, and having an opportunity to really break open some huge explosive plays for this Texas offense. And I think that's where Texas is going to have to live against some of the defenses that they will face, is having to win on the off-schedule plays, right? You talked about some inconsistencies that may arise with the offensive line going against the stud talent, well, that's where your game breaker got to be the X factor, and I think Arch Manning can absolutely be that. But I think Steve Sarkisian is going to be wise and smart with how he's utilized from a running perspective, and I don't imagine him having too many running packages like we saw him sprinkled in last year to kind of give Quinn Ewers some relief in short yardage situations.
Fozzie Whitaker of ESPN, former Texas Longhorn, discussing the Longhorns here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning on the Higginbotham Hotline. Something I heard Sark mention at media days, Fozzie, that I was not really aware of or had not heard discussed much more was Trey Moore sort of moving off the ball. An elite pass rusher. We've seen him at two different places be able to get to the quarterback. How much is his role going to be different this year than maybe what we've seen him do in the past?
I think it's actually a little bit more still similar to what he did last year. Now, his first year, he was more in that typical defensive end, right, on the edge of the ball, edge of the line, kind of holding it down in a particular way that he was at UTSA. But last year, you see him move around off ball quite a bit. And I'm from what I've seen and watched in spring practice and heard from fall camp as well, that seems to be the kind of positioning that he'll take. And whenever we say off the ball, that doesn't mean he's going to live in the box per se off the line of scrimmage. That's just kind of his quote-unquote position listed on the roster. But the way PK loves to utilize his defense, kind of very similar in the same way that Anthony Hill, he lines up at middle linebacker, but then a certain package goes in, whether it's a NASCAR package or a different type of dime package, then he rolls down and becomes the defensive end. You're going to see a lot more of that where he's going to be listed as linebacker, but he's still going to be playing that kind of defensive end / outside linebacker in a rush type of situation to utilize what he does best, which is get after the passer. So I think it just helps continue to make that defense a little bit more multiple. Offenses have to plan for multiple different looks of the likes of Trey Moore and Anthony Hill Jr. and Colin Simmons being rotated around, but I do believe it'll be a little bit more similar to what we saw a season ago.
What's the one thing outside of the offensive line that could potentially get this team? Because I think everybody looks at it and it's like they're stacked across the board. They're deep. They're well coached. They have good continuity on defense. They have great coaching continuity overall. But the offensive line, big question. Arch, little bit of a question, but still a question nonetheless. So what is it that can get this team if it's not Arch's inexperience or the offensive line?
Yeah, the thing that I always look into is the impact of guys that were, I guess, a huge part of the success a season ago. I truly believe the likes of Jahdae Barron and Andrew Makuba were the reason why Texas defense performed as well as it did a season ago and created the number of takeaways that they did. Both of those guys responsible for 5 interceptions themselves. And we obviously know Jahdae Barron goes on to win the Thorpe. Andrew Makuba, second-round draft pick. They were cerebral. Like, if you want to talk ball, you want to break down ball, you want to talk about getting into the best position to be successful, those guys erased a lot on the back end. And thankfully, Michael Taft is coming back, because if he was gone too, it'd be a whirlwind of pain for Texas secondary. But I do believe there'll be some growing pain, similar to the offensive line, right? You lose some big cog pieces like that. You got to figure out who you are, what your identity is, and how well you can adapt to the new situations that's at hand. I think some of that may be the case in the secondary, even though they have veteran guys that have played before. Muhammad on the outside, Gilbo on the outside, Jelani McDonald sprinkling in as well. And then you got some new guys that'll have to surface and make a name for themselves. But I believe that secondary is where, if something gets Texas, it's because they're not as buttoned up as we saw them a year ago with the likes of Jahdae Barron and obviously Andrew Makuba.
Anything that you've learned through camp, realized through camp, kind of found out about through camp that you didn't know going in, that sort of changed your opinion on this team or a position group thus far?
Yeah, a big question mark that people have is that interior defensive line position, because of where Texas has been over the past few seasons, creating and generating draft picks, and then now you kind of like, okay, who's going to replace the stud guys that you've lost over the past 3 NFL draft selections? And I believe the addition from the transfer portal, you got Watson, you got Brevard, you got Shaw, and then the newest addition, freshman Justice Terry, I think is going to be an absolute monster, and Alex January probably be one of the day one starters on that interior defensive line. I think they're actually really, really good. Obviously, you got the edge rushers to pair with it, but those guys, I believe, will continue to uphold the standard of what the president had been set with Ojimo and Coburn a few seasons back whenever they got drafted, and then obviously Sweat and Murphy, and then even last year Collins and Broughton. I think they'll live up to what legacy has been left behind at that interior defensive line position. And I think that was a little bit of a question mark for me, and then a surprise whenever I start witnessing how well they moved around, that, okay, I don't think those question marks will last long once everybody gets a chance to see them in action.
Finally, Fozzie, looking at just kind of where things are and where the SEC is, what does success look like for Texas this year? What is the fan base's expectations? Is it national championship or bust, or are they a little more reasonable when assessing some of the pieces that have to be replaced?
I think it depends on which Texas fan you're talking to and what time of day it is. Obviously, national championship or bust is the first thing that comes to mind, right? You see the number one preseason ranking in the AP and the coaches poll, and a lot of Texas fans, they just naturally gravitate to that. They haven't been here before. Everybody's seeing it for the first time. The Arch Manning effect, like everything's all peachy at the moment, and so everybody feels as though it's the calling for Texas to win a national championship. Sark been knocking on the door the past couple of seasons, like everything comes together, and rightfully so, right? That's why you coach at the University of Texas. That's why you play at the University of Texas. You want to have a chance to win a national championship. But the more and more I start talking with a few people, then they understand that what happened last year in comparison to winning a national championship, you don't have to be flawless throughout the regular season. And Ohio State was a perfect example of finishing fourth in your conference, getting hot at the right time, and then going on a run to win a national championship, and doing it in dramatic fashion against this very own team. So I think with the 12 teams and the way that has played out, it's kind of changed the perspective that, hey, number one, going maybe undefeated or staying as the number one ranking is great, but realistically, winning a national championship doesn't mean you have to play perfect week in and week out. It just means you need to play great and then get hot at the right time, and I think that's where most fans in Austin kind of settle in.
Fozzie, we asked this question earlier in the show with the AP poll coming out yesterday. I just be interested to kind of get your thoughts, big picture. But how many teams do you think possibly can win a national championship this year? You think could find a way to put things together, make a run, get through that playoff, and hoist a trophy at the end of the season?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's so many new faces that are leading programs, which makes it so difficult to tell like how good a team really is going to be. But that's part of our job, right? We got to project a little bit and utilize our expertise. Put Clemson up there number one just because I think they have the best passer in the country and a ton of surrounding talent, not just on the offensive side of the ball, but on the defensive side of the ball as well. I put Penn State up there for the same reasons, returning a great leader in Drew Aller. I think he continues to take a next step forward underneath Andy Kotelnicki, who I love as an offensive coordinator. Defense has never been an issue for Penn State. And then you got two monsters at the running back position. I always got to talk about RBs. Come on now, you know. So I think they'll also create, obviously, opportunities for Penn State to control games whenever they need to. I look at Alabama as a team. Ty Simpson named the starter. It's his time, right? He's obviously been ridiculed in the past, but I think this is his moment. You got one of the best receivers to throw to and Ryan Williams. You got running backs. You got a defense to help you. Kalen DeBoer, year number 2, getting settled in. So I think they have a chance. I also look at Ohio State, obviously the defending national champions as a team. Texas, I believe, can win it. Georgia's always going to be in the conversation until they tell me they can't be. And I think for the most part, those are the teams. And at LSU, let me not forget about Garrett Nussmeier, who I think is one of the top quarterbacks in the country as well. I believe Brian Kelly can get it fixed and get all phases of his team in accordance, working towards that common goal. And I think this could be the year that they do that. And that's where I see realistically those teams having a chance to win a national championship this upcoming season.
There you go, Fozzie. Great stuff, man. Thanks for hopping on. Always appreciate the time, and we'll do it again soon.
Absolutely, fellas. I appreciate you all. And, man, football is almost here. Let's go, baby.
It's close. We're getting there. Fozzie Whitaker joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Appreciate that time. We'll continue going around college football. He brought up a name that I have wanted to bring up with Greg for the last couple of weeks. It's not an SEC team, but it is a team that people believe can win a national championship. And I'm going to ask Greg, does this individual need to be different in order for that team to actually go win a title? That's next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We have taken you all around the SEC, all around college football. We'll continue to do it. But a name was just brought up by Fozzie Whitaker when talking about teams a little bit more nationally. Can they go win a national championship? Will they win a national championship? And the name that was brought up, G-Mac, was Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator at Penn State. Now, you and I would both have Penn State at 2 in our preseason rankings. So we think they're very capable of winning a national title. I understand that everybody thinks history repeats itself, and just because things have happened some years, a lot of years, every year, they automatically believe that that happens again the next year. It's actually not always the case. So I don't just look at it as James Franklin's never won the big one, therefore they can't go win a national championship. But when referencing can Penn State win a national title, here is just a thought that I have about Penn State, and I want to get your response to it because you may say that I'm an idiot. You may say I'm accurate. I had Anthony here on my podcast this past week, and we previewed the SEC Big Ten matchups early in the season, and I stated this to him. Does Andy Kotelnicki need to cut down on the cuteness in order for Penn State to win a national title?
I think it'd be great. I mean, I'm not sure how anyone else can possibly get around it. Like, the creativity is off the charts. But in reality, sometimes you just got to go bludgeon your way to a first down. And we saw some similar things from Lane Kiffin at times last year. Like, just go bludgeon your way to a first down and let's figure it out. Like, swinging gate formations in the open field and stuff like that. Yes, it forces the opposition to burn some chalk and waste time on getting lined up against things they might see. But when push comes to shove and you got to pick up that critical 4th and 2, do you have the stones to be able to go and do it? I think that's a real question. I think they can. I like their backs and I like their personnel, but that is a question based on his track record and history.
Let me ask you this, this is one of those addition by subtraction questions that normally people would hear on the surface level and say, that's dumb. But I'm honestly asking you this because I think this could be real. Is not having Tyler Warren possibly helpful with that?
No. But okay. I understand where you're going because you feel
you have to use him, right? Like you
feel like there's an obligation to use your best player.
Yes.
Like what you're saying is not at all incorrect. Nor is it at all unfair. So yeah, I think it's a very real thing when you have a really shiny toy and you trust that toy, you expect that toy to get that first down for you. So yes, I understand where you're coming from, but I still think anytime you have a difference-making tight end that's a matchup nightmare that can win on a slant or a back shoulder fade or a QB power, it's kind of nice to know I have that in my back pocket.
Yeah, and it's something I've kind of thought about with, because at the end of the day, if you're going to win a national championship, you got to be pretty good at some of the hard things or a lot of the hard things. And like you mentioned, short yardage situations, offensively or defensively, those are hard. Knowing that you have those shiny toys, but not just forcing yourself to use them in different creative ways all the time, sometimes it's hard to not say, hey, man, just give 44 the ball. And let's do it this way. Let's do it that way. Let's let him do this. Let's let him do that. Instead of just saying, let's run inside zone here and pick up a first down and close this game out. It's some things that were on my mind with Penn State is in regards to them actually going out and getting this done and potentially winning a national championship that I don't know if they're real, not real, something that could happen, won't happen. But I do know one thing that is going to happen, and that's going to be the Jox kickoff party. And you can be a part of it. It's not hard for you to be a part of it. There are not a ton of different people who are going to be able to be a part of it because we want to limit this to some of our diehard listeners to come out and have a chance to be able to hang out with us at Regions Park. So it's something that we do every year. It's something that we obviously love, something that we like getting together with you guys on. And, John, tell our listeners exactly how they can be a part of that Jox kickoff party.
You can celebrate the kickoff to college football with us at the Bill Smith Buick GMC Jox kickoff party at Regents Field on Thursday, the 21st. And the only way to win is by – hold on.
Got him. Cough monster got him. It's like the old turf monster gets you. You got wide open for the end zone there, and next thing you know, 25-yard
Got
line. There he goes down. Face plant into the turf.
Not ever good. It's the old, we used to call it was the sniper gotcha.
Yep.
Because there's no one there, there's no one around, and then boom, you go down. You just trip on the white line. That's the 7-yard line. Yeah, you trip on the hash.
That Beamer sound effect gets you.
I blame.
That's why you can't do. That's why you can't do. You can't play on the logo. It's unlucky. It's not. You can't do it. You just have to take a sack to get off the logo just because you can't do it. It's unlucky.
Okay, now doing this again, you can celebrate the kickoff to college football with us at the Bill Smith Buick GMC Jox Kickoff Party at Regents Field on Thursday, the 21st. And the only way to go is by winning a pair of tickets. By the way, this is the last week to qualify. So to enter, text the keyword football and your name to 205-834-9450. That's keyword football and your full name to 205-834-9450. Winners are drawn and notified daily. Remember, this is your last week to qualify, so make sure you get it in. For more info, visit joxfm.com.
So there you go. Nice bounce back from the cough monster trying to take you down there, John. And he brought up something interesting that I want to talk to you about. We'll do it on the other side. But you bring up a funny point on bad luck playing from the logo. I have a totally different take on that, and I'll give it to you next right here on Jox. Saybear just made me aware of a new Netflix show coming out September the 10th, which, by the way, I haven't finished the SEC show yet. Have you watched any of the any given Saturday, any given game day, the SEC show on Netflix, T-Mac?
I have not. Would love to at some point, but not right now.
Yeah, I'm like literally squeezing in 10 minutes at a time. So it's it takes me 4 different sit downs to get through one episode.
I've heard it's good though.
I actually enjoyed it. Like everybody who says, "Well, didn't learn anything," Stanford Steve. Like I didn't know Brendan Traore was from England. Mississippi State tight end. They had a clip of his teammates making fun of him. Like, are we gonna get tea after practice? Well, I think that was Australian accent, but either way,
close enough.
It works.
Apparently, Shane Beamer's wife catches hell for the way she bakes cookies. I think that's in episode 5 or so.
I saw Roman tweet about how he wants some.
Yeah, like they look underbaked, which that's how they should be. Like,
sign me up for that. That's a win.
Isn't that a good thing?
My wife and I had this conversation last night, Tuesday date night, about pizza. And we actually went to a spot close to GMAC that is famous for burning their pizza. And when I ordered mine, I said, "Can I please have mine not burnt?" She's like, "Excuse me?" And I said, "I would like mine not to be burnt, please." All these fire oven roasted, sit in there, whatever. Y'all burn y'all's pizza, and it's not good. You cannot tell me that you like your pizza crust black. There's no part of that that's good. And y'all think you're fooling yourself because this is what you're doing. I know what you people are doing. You've been told this is fancy pizza, and this is high-end pizza, and this is cool pizza. And so you tell yourself you like it. That's what it is. You're like, well, the important people like this pizza. This is how they do it in New York City. And you're wrong. It's burnt, and it tastes like bark. You don't like it. You think you like it, and you think you have to like it. That's the problem. Nobody likes burnt pizza crust. By the way, crust is good. Why are you ruining it? There's nothing wrong with pizza crust, man. I enjoy it. I like it. Most people like it.
You might as well get it.
Well, and some people like to get it black, apparently.
There are some things that are
carbs.
better burnt. Pizza crust is not one of them.
Give me something better burnt.
I don't know about burnt, but I'd much rather bacon heavily cooked.
Okay, what is better overcooked, let's say?
Okay, bacon. I'm not Jim Nantz and going to say toast. I ain't saying that.
No, bacon crispy is better in my opinion. I'll give you that.
Bacon number 1 by a mile. I would go as far as to say, like, I love when I cook sausages on the grill, like a Kaneka, for it to have a good char on the
crisp.
side.
Yeah, that's fine.
Maybe even a home grilled burger too, because the crunch on the burger is not bad either.
I got other things.
I'm with you there. I just don't want it.
Do your
I don't
bacon
want it on
first
the
and then
inside.
put it on there.
I don't want it on the inside to be like black.
No, I
on
agree,
the burger.
but yeah.
But if I can get like a good solid sear on the outside, yeah, we're rolling. We're cooking with gas there, if you will. No pun intended.
Are you any of you honestly telling me that if I offered you a pizza right now, whatever toppings you want, and I said you can have one with the crust and the bottom, a little bit doughy, like flavorful, or you can have it half black and brown and crispy, that you would take it that way? If that's, people really think that.
My dad prefers burnt pizza crust. Like, it's
your
almost
dad's a
uneatable.
psychopath.
No, it's almost uneatable sometimes. Like, he gets it super well done, and he likes flat, thin crust to begin with. It's like eating pizza off a cracker.
It's not even crust.
Like, I just have no time for it.
Yes, it's not even crust. They call that a flatbread for a reason. It's something totally different. It's not pizza. You're fooling yourselves if you think that's pizza. It just isn't. And you people that like this burnt crust, there's something wrong with you. There is. You just can't tell me you think it's better. I know what you think it is. This is the fancy pizza. Good for you. I told her to put mine in there half as long as they normally do and take it out.
Dang.
And it was good.
Okay.
It's better than normal, by the way. The only thing I didn't like about it is the leaves that they threw on it. I don't need those
The worst
either.
part is I don't even know what place you're
Keep 'em.
talking about. So
leaves.
I'm in a dark spot about it.
Well, there's only one fancy pizza place that I know about where you live. So, ambiance, great. Atmosphere, awesome, other than I sat under a tree at the bar. But
So that's where the leaves came from?
Inside?
I felt like it did. I felt like the leaves on the pizza came from underneath the tree that I sat on that hit me in the face numerous times at the bar. But we moved, and then it was okay.
Why are you so tall?
Why is the tree so low?
Was it a bonsai tree?
It was not. I don't know what kind of plant/tree it was, but it was interfering with my vision.
Was it a maple?
He might have liked that.
It was inside.
It tasted like syrup. He'd have liked that.
It was inside. It was a plant with leaves hanging over the bar, but it did have branches, so I don't know what you would reference it as. Not bonsai, though. I know what that is. All right, y'all can call me crazy if you want, but I'm right.
You're not crazy. We're all on the same page here.
All right, back with more Mac and Q right after this. All right, 9:39, Wednesday, August 13th, right here on Jox 94.5. I've gotten a lot of text messages in on the pizza conversation. You guys can tweet in. You can call in 800-239-9569, 800-239-WJOX. I'm actually surprised to hear where McElroy went on this because I thought he was a burnt crust guy. Number one,
No.
he takes me as a fancy individual.
It would
and
be
most
on brand.
fancy individuals
It
like
would
the
be on
burnt
brand,
crust.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you surprised me by getting away from that.
I am not a burnt crust guy, not a fancy pizza guy. I like greasy, overdone like meat lovers pizza. Like I'm pretty standard fat kid. I just happen to be slightly skinny enough to play quarterback. But in reality, the greasier the better. I don't want your fancy stuff. I don't want your gluten-free, crust. I want the action.
Cauliflower
I want
crust.
all of it.
Yeah.
My two favorite foods are Chinese food and pizza. Like, this is not that difficult.
And sometimes you've even stated at the same damn time. Like Gucci and Bally.
I'd be lying if I haven't had a trio day of Taco Casa for early brunch at 10:30. Panda Express at, say, I don't know, 3-ish with a little late night za. Like, yeah, I'd be lying if that hasn't happened before.
Okay.
Outside of college, that happened?
Yeah.
I'm just asking. College feels acceptable. Post college, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
sometimes you got to send it.
Unfamiliar with his game. Wow.
All right, 007 Dog tweets in burnt ends, which, yeah, you'd say that's something Overcooked would be. Is that overcooked or accidentally
or like
just
just
part
right?
Of being cooked? Yeah, I don't.
It's not. Burnt ends really aren't overcooked. They're just lathered with like a sugary barbecue sauce, and the barbecue sauce is what's actually burnt, not the actual pork itself.
I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop this conversation right here because I don't need barbecue guy coming after me today. I've been there before, and I don't need it. I know that is.
But you're not over. You're smoking
down
it.
a
You can't
dangerous
overcook
path,
it if it's smoked.
I just want everybody to know I'm not even capable of it. I don't do it. I don't smoke it. I don't do barbecue. I don't know how. I'm not talented enough. All of y'all are. All of y'all are the best at it. So congrats.
There we go.
Please leave me out of that conversation. I don't want any smoke there, literally and figuratively. Aaron Hubbard tweets in, fall off the bone ribs are technically overcooked and great.
That is true.
I don't know if it's over, under, in between, mix, must, plus, minus. I'll take fall off the bone ribs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
However that happens, I'm for it. I am in.
That's not usually overcooked. If they are dry and or chewy, that's when they're overcooked.
Jolly
Fall
tweets.
off the bone is easy to do. It's good. It's good stuff.
Greg is the one that's doing that to you guys.
He's the meat master.
Take that at him. Do not direct this barbecue perfectionism at me. I am not that guy.
It is not hard. It's literally fall off the bone ribs are the easiest thing. 3-2-1 method. Wrap them for the 2 hours in between. Throw a little apple cider vinegar in there as you're cooking it. Slight steam. Make sure you remove the membrane off the bottom. Fall off the bone ribs are not hard. It's easy. And it really, with like Traegers and pellet grills now, it's completely foolproof.
It's all about the apparatus.
I'm not.
You can also do it in the oven. Doesn't matter. Like it's not. It's
that
not
probably
hard.
just set them off right there.
What about
an electric smoker?
I am not an electric smoker person. I know Landrum is, but to each their own. I'll allow that debate to happen on the 3-man front show.
Okay, got it. Jolly tweets in, famous for burnt crust. A pizza establishment has actually made a business of this? ? Country is doomed. I mean, I don't know if they market themselves on that. And it's not just this place, by the way. This is all of these fancy brick oven, round oven, tile oven places. It's all burnt. And some of y'all like it. And some of y'all say it's the way it should be. And it shouldn't be. It's not a real thing. But it comes out burnt. And when I bite into it and black crumbles fall over my plate, that's wrong. It should not be that way. And even with your little dough rolls that come beforehand, that shouldn't happen. Those things should melt in your mouth, not break in your hand.
Okay. So you're looking for Sister Schubert rolls as your crust. That's fine. Like, we actually,
By
you know
the way,
what?
Good Lord, that sounds incredible.
About to say, hang on a second. Are we on to something here?
Yes. Can we have a co-marketing campaign here and the Sister Schubert pepperoni special? I'm in. Sign me up.
Deep dish. You make it deep dish with Sister
God,
Schubert
that sounds
crust.
Unbelievable.
Oh.
A pan of Sister Schubert,
boy.
cook the whole thing, put the pizza ingredients on top of it, and just go. I'm in. Sign me up. We'll have it right now. Aaron Hubbard also tweets, burning pizza is easy too, still overcooked. It might be easy, but it's not good. And it should not be acceptable. When you burn your pizza, you should throw it away and try again. Or give it to your dog. You should not eat it and say, this is how fancy people operate. It's not a real thing.
So you would prefer yours a little underdone than over?
If I had to have it one or the other,
right,
keep it a little on the down. I'll take it a little doughy if it has to be, because I don't like bark.
I prefer mine over.
I'm going to push
I don't
back
feel like
on that
I
a
don't
little
feel like
bit.
bark is an acceptable pizza ingredient, but yet some people
Now
prepare theirs that way.
Now I've gagged a bit like that. Now I'm a little disgusted by that. The idea of having an undercooked pizza, like legitimately undercooked.
Now he
it's a
said
fine
one or the
line.
other. He said one or the other. Not that I'm asking for it that way.
Right.
Which, by the way, when I asked for mine not to be burnt last night, and my wife let hers go the full McCoy, she admitted, "You're right. This is too much." See, you don't know when it's the only way they do it.
Yeah.
But then when you force them to do it your way,
You might be onto something.
but they've infiltrated your brains to tell you this is fancy pizza. Oh, this happens because it's in this special oven. Take it out earlier. And it doesn't happen. It doesn't have to be that way. And I should have said it on our appetizer. Because little dough knots or whatever they're called, which, by the way, would be a great name for garlic knots or whatever you call them.
right
dough
there,
knots,
right.
it's there. Just take that. You can have it. I'll let you keep it. Not fancy enough, but yeah, whatever. I should have told him that on that too, because she said it. She's like, these are overdone. But see, where they've lied to you is that it's fancy, so you like it. Black, charred, bark, burnt. They make you think it's supposed to be that way, and it isn't. Stop doing it. You can control this. There's a way out, people. Just tell them halfway through, remove, and you'll be fine. You'll need it that
I don't
way.
know. The fancy pizza, like, I don't know what fancy pizza is. It's about as basic as it gets. If you know the history of pizza and things of that nature, like, it's not a fancy dish. Don't try to, what they say in Joe Dirt, when he introduced himself as Joe Dirte. Like, no, dude, don't try to church it up, all right? Your name is Joe Dirt. Like, pizza is pizza. It is not a fancy dish. It is cheese, bread, and sauce. It is as entry level as it gets, and it is delicious. So let's not try to mess with it, man. Let's not mess with perfect. It's ideal already as it is. So I'm not familiar with said fancy pizza, but I do know good pizza when I see it. And as someone that lived in New York for a little bit, I understand that there is an appeal to having some New York style pizza, which in some cases does have burnt crust. I'm not a huge fan, but if you're having a New York slice, that is not uncommon. So if that's what you're going after, and there's obviously a pretty tremendous market for that, I get it. Because there's a lot of people that don't like Chicago deep dish either. I think it's fantastic.
I don't think it has
a lot
to
of
be
people
that,
don't like
but
it.
it just I don't need my crust to be black. I don't.
It's fine, but that's a personal opinion. I don't think there's like, I mean, there's obviously a whole host of people that prefer a New York slice, which oftentimes is slightly overcooked on the crust. So I think you could be alone here. I don't think many people are digging in as hard as you are. That's all I'm saying. There's a market for it.
Kevin Blankenship tweets in, fancy pizza people aren't normal. Tommy Wyndham, Sister Schubert made in Laverne, Alabama. Well, God bless Laverne, Alabama.
We know.
Home of Michael Mallard, a.k.a. Pup, defensive lineman at Auburn back in the day. Royal Payne, the people who like burnt pizza because it's high-end are the same ones who pretend the dude who put a banana on a glass stick at the art gallery for $100,000 is a clever artist and not a money launderer.
What?
What is he referencing here? I haven't seen this. I don't know what this is. I don't know about this. What is the $100,000 banana in a glass stick? No one? Anyone? Nobody?
Unfamiliar.
Greg hasn't been to that art gallery this year?
Not yet.
Not yet. We'll make it there, though. How do you prefer your pizza crust, Damien?
I mean, I prefer.
Because you felt like I was kind of crazy.
No, I would much rather, if choosing between the two of underdone, I would much rather have it overdone.
Okay. 800-239-9569. You want to share yours with us? Uncle Kirk tweeting in. Cole needs to stick with DiGiorno's or Totino's. Actually, the best right now, I don't care, I'll give them a shout out, would be Trader Joe's. My wife buys the ingredients there and makes it. I think it's better than any other pizza we get, including super fancy burnt pizza last night. It's 10 times as much.
Could have made it at the house.
Good when you make them take it out early, not burnt. Don't need it.
For a moment, can I
What was wrong with that guy on the phone, John? Is he mad at us? Was
No.
the show boring?
No, he told me about the banana stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Love it.
What was the
allow me
detail?
to speak freely. I really would like to know the answer to this. I have never had DiGiorno pizza. Not really because of any other reason. If I'm eating pizza, I like to know what I'm getting. Is DiGiorno pizza legit?
I think I've had it like once.
Right.
It was a long time
Pretty
ago
good?
at somebody's house, like after a game or something. It's fine. I
On a
don't think I
scale
would.
of,
I don't
like,
think I would
Little
see it and say
Caesars-
I gotta grab
Right.
that.
On a scale of like Little Caesars to, I don't know, my favorite.
I'll tell you this. I don't think that there is a takeout pizza place that I would have below it.
Facts.
Pizza Hut ahead, Papa John's ahead, Domino's ahead. What am I missing? Little Caesars ahead.
Yeah.
Sbarro ahead.
Wait, you're putting Little
Costco
Caesars
ahead.
ahead of DiGiorno?
Yeah, I'll put Costco ahead of them too.
Oh, Costco's legit. Costco's like on the high side of really good. Like that pizza rips.
So they're closer to fancy.
Not
No,
fancy.
they're just
but
good.
Good.
It can't be fancy when
Like,
you have them
I don't-
cafeteria tables there. Like, it can't be fancy.
Yeah.
It's
Maybe
way
I've
too
had
greasy
too
to
many.
be fancy. Also,
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
I've had too many Little Caesars pizzas in my life to like. I used to eat it regularly in college, and I think I've just had too many, and I just don't have the taste for it anymore. I just can't do it. I don't know why. It's like a food aversion. But I used to love it, and now I don't like it. So, is it fair that your pizza taste can change over time?
Yes, just like everyone who thinks this is good, it has changed because people have told them that their taste has changed. People have told them that this is what it should be. And so therefore you're like, whoa, if it's the brick oven or it's the marble oven, we have to like it. Well, this is the fancy tile oven. This is the way it's got to be. Well, do you know? Just take it out earlier. Don't burn it. Walnuts wants to talk pizza. Welcome in, Walnuts.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. It's that thin crust pizza is kind of tough not to burn. You know, what I mean, I know someone just mentioned something about Totino's, but it doesn't matter what you do with Totino's. As soon as you put it in the oven, that dollar pizza is already burnt.
I thought Totino's were pizza rolls.
I'm about to say, aren't those like the pizza pockets?
That's where they made their
the
money.
Totino's were them.
Yeah.
Oh, they're trying to do real ones
Those
now?
are those little
They
dollar
started with
pizzas
that.
granted, they're like $2 or $3 now, but they used to come in like boxes of 4. You used to get 4 like supremes or 4 double pepperonis.
Put it
and
right on the
I used to
rack
kill
and
'em.
burned
They're,
instantly.
Absolutely, immediately burnt. You know, crispy right away. But I love thin crust pizza. You know what I mean? But that's just my preference. But Cole, I got a quick question for you. I have 2 comments. Do you like the Hawaiian pizza?
I'll have it if it's available. If somebody else wants to waste their money on it, I'll have a piece of it.
You're just not ordering it. You're
I'm
just
not going to go
ordering
get it. No, no. Like
Yeah,
my wife did
so-
some super fancy, like not the normal cheese pizza last night with jalapenos and she's like, I just want peaches on something. If I can get peaches on it, I want it. And there's peaches on this pizza. It was good. Am I going to waste my money on it? No, I wasted my money on hers, but not for me. I waste my money on pizza I like, which is pepperoni.
I showed them.
I understand.
Wow.
I understand that
Get 'em,
completely.
Cole.
And then
I'll say
just
this:
to go back
that is a
on-
very polarizing topic amongst our friend group. We have one friend that really, one of my best friends, that loves to eat pineapple on his pizza, and like that is his one request. I'm good for 1 slice, and I think most of the others are good for 1, but there's always 4 slices left of the pineapple pizza. Meanwhile, pepperoni all gone, cheese all gone, meat lovers 3/4 of the way gone, and usually we get some type of like margarita or whatever with basil and I don't even know what they put on it. Whatever, it's legit, but that's usually like 3/4 of the way gone too. The pineapple is the lone remaining. So do you do it to appease the one friend, or do you just say, hey bud, no, you're eating what everybody else is eating tonight? What do you do with that?
Again,
you're eating what everybody else is eating.
But you want to be a good friend and a good host. And frankly, like, I don't mind that 1 slice. It's kind of like a buffalo chicken pizza. Like, I want 1 slice of buffalo chicken pizza. It's legit. It's amazing. I might be the only one that eats it, though. That's the problem. You know what I mean? Like, just 1 slice, just to mix up the taste buds a little bit.
Listen, we've all tried certain things in life that we know are not going to be our normal. And we've gone back to normal.
Right.
It's okay to try something different every now and then, but it's not going to be your go-to on a regular basis. If somebody puts a peach pizza next to you and you say, I'll give it a shot, that doesn't mean you get 2 larges every time you want pizza. You give it a shot because it's there.
Right.
I'll try it. It's like the Elf League football. I'll give it a shot. It's tackle football.
But you ain't paying to see it.
When I need to grind on tape, it ain't going to be Elf League football.
Or when other tape is available.
Yes. It's like
Beggars
the Indoor
can't be
Football
choosers.
League. We'll go back there in the office and watch
the
it.
Wheeling Miners, baby.
But we ain't living on it. That's not Saturday night's main event, ever.
It's not pay-per-view. You're going to get it on Raw.
That'd be more like ECW, I think. Appreciate Bill Connolly, Steve Robertson, Fozzie Whitaker joining the show today. A lot of good football information. A lot of boring pizza talk, because that's apparently what this show is, boring. And we'll try to be less boring tomorrow, 7 to 10.